Why the sudden change of heart? Lucas asked, puzzled. He hoped it wasn't because of his stupid joke earlier. You don't have to listen to what anyone else says. For all you know, they're just trying to mess with your head. Lily tilted her head. Mess with my head? It just means when people tell you that you're not good enough, you should let it go in one ear and out the other. I don't care what other people say. I only listen to you, Lily said honestly. It's just, I feel like you're always thinking so much further ahead than I am. A wave of pride washed over her, followed by a pang of disappointment. She had genuinely fantasized about a future where she was the one making enough money so he wouldn't have to work himself to the bone. He never complained, but she saw the dark circles under his eyes becoming a permanent fixture since he'd started the company. That rainy day at his apartment, he had fallen asleep from exhaustion in the time it took her to cook a simple meal. Maybe it was because his brain was always running at full speed, but he seemed to be in a constant state of sleep deprivation. I wouldn't be so sure about that, Lucas said with a gentle laugh. Maybe you were just under too much pressure before and never had a chance to really think things through. You're so much stronger now than you used to be. Haven't you noticed? Really? Lily looked at him, surprised. Of course. Before, when you had to choose between making a quick buck and investing in yourself, you always chose the quick buck, taking dead-end jobs. But now, whether it's tutoring or your art, your planting seeds are going to grow into something amazing, even if you just keep drawing as a hobby. Lily nodded, only half understanding. I want to earn more money too, she said, her voice full of resolve. Lucas playfully twirled the umbrella. That's entirely up to you. Honestly, I wouldn't mind if you just wanted to be a homebody and chill all day. He considered the alternative. If Lily were the one running the company, and he got to stay home. That didn't sound half bad. Who wouldn't love a gorgeous, gentle sugar mama? But he quickly dismissed the ridiculous thought. He could never let Lily carry that kind of stress. He only made it look easy. In reality, he was thinking about the company 24/7. Startups were never that simple. No way. Lily refused immediately. Then I'd really be a burden. She seemed to hate the very idea. Silly, Lucas said, his voice a soft taunt. If it were me, I'd be laughing all the way to the bank. No work, just playing video games all day, and then I'd get to tease you when you came home at night. Well, if that's what you really want, once I'm making good money. Maybe, Lily whispered. But you can't just be a slob. You'd have to at least help with the kids. And you'd have to love me forever. Lucas nearly stumbled on the perfectly flat sidewalk. When he recovered, he sounded both overjoyed and exasperated. Have I ever not been good to you? I said in the future, Lily retorted, looking like she wanted to bump into him again. The man was probably thinking about how to devour her whole every single day. He was incorrigible. Lucas snorted internally. The future? Huh? Just you wait. I'm playing the long game with you, my dear. The short walk from the alley to Lily's apartment stretched on, and they finally arrived at her door. Okay, when I bring up the house, just play along, Lucas whispered, then nodded for Lily to get her keys. As she expertly turned the key in the lock, something felt strange. For a girl who had been a model child her whole life, this was a little too much excitement. Sophia, I'm here to freeload, Lucas called out cheerfully as he walked in. My mom won't feed me. I've got plenty for you, dear. I saved you a plate, Sophia Thompson chuckled, pushing herself up with her cane and taking a couple of shuffling steps toward the door. She could manage a few feet with the cane now, but it was hard to say how long it would be before she wouldn't need it at all. Lily carefully helped her to the dining table, then hurried to the kitchen for plates and utensils. The 4 dishes on the table were all Lucas's favorites, clearly untouched. The sight made his heart skip a beat. Next time I run away from home, I'm coming here, Lucas said, not standing on ceremony as he sat down across from Sophia. No matter how busy you get with work, you have to eat on time, Sophia advised, her eyes full of concern. Your health is the most important thing. Just look at those dark circles. Lucas nodded slightly. A moment later, Lily returned, mentally prepared to back up whatever story Lucas was about to spin for her mom. She sat down quietly between them, bracing herself. But to her surprise, Lucas didn't bring it up at all. He just chatted casually, talking about whatever came to mind. Confused, she decided to stop thinking about it and just focused on serving them both food. So, how's the company doing, Lucas? You seem so busy, Sophia asked with a soft smile, posing the classic question every elder asks. Busy with work? Or studying hard? It was always a painful topic, since no one ever wanted to work or study, but it was the question he had been waiting for. The last 2 months have been pretty insane, working around the clock, Lucas said seriously, but the payoff has been huge. We've cleared a few $100,000 just in that time. That's amazing, Lucas. A real CEO, Sophia beamed, using a clean pair of chopsticks to place a piece of chicken in his bowl. Eat up. You're still too thin. Lucas stared at the barbecue wing in his bowl, momentarily stunned. This isn't right. Is there seriously no one in my life who's going to be shocked by this? It felt like he'd earned all this money for nothing. Not a single satisfying moment. Couldn't someone just mock him for being a broke college student so he could have a dramatic reveal? Still, he was happy. When an elder cared more about your health than your success, you knew you truly mattered to them. All she wished for him was good health. Everything else was a bonus. Seattle real estate is blowing up right now. So, I was thinking of buying a place before it gets even crazier, Lucas said, lying with a perfectly straight face. Sophia wouldn't know the difference. But I'll be at the office most of the time, so I won't be living there. You could move in. No point in it sitting empty. Sophia, whose expression had been placid, froze. After a long moment, she spoke slowly. Actually, I've been thinking. I want to go back. To be with Lily's father. We still have some savings, enough to rent a small place in town. I could visit him whenever I wanted. Tears welled in her eyes, but her lips held a smile. All these years, I haven't been back once. He must resent me for it. Hearing this, Lily bit her lip and lowered her head, not saying a word. A few strands of hair fell beside her ears, framing a portrait of silent sorrow. Under the table, Lucas gently patted her knee. You should at least wait until your leg is completely healed before you go back, he said softly. You'll need a place to stay until then, right? Renting is ridiculously expensive, Lucas said, then paused, realizing how strange it sounded to complain about rent after just mentioning he'd made hundreds of thousands of dollars. The place I'm buying will be empty anyway, and I wouldn't charge you rent. Think of all the money you'd save, money you could use to buy things for Lily. And once your leg is better, I'll drive you back myself. Wait until you're better, then you can go back. I won't stop you this time, Lily murmured, her head bowed low, her voice thick with unshed tears. Lucas pressed on. I know the route like the back of my hand now. Once you're healed, you can go back and forth whenever you want. For now, just listen to us. All right. Sophia finally conceded after a long silence. She looked at Lucas, her feelings a complex mix of gratitude and unease. No matter how tactfully he phrased it, she felt helpless. She knew she had to find a way to tell Lily that it was Lucas who had paid for her surgery. Her daughter needed to know how lucky she was, how deep this boy's love truly ran. Thankfully, the heavy atmosphere didn't last. The conversation soon drifted to lighter topics. Lucas, gesturing with a chicken wing, even recounted a childhood story of being chased around his grandparents' farm by a chicken and a very territorial goose. Having already learned of his fear of bugs, Lily now had fresh blackmail material. A little while later, Sophia said, I'll go get another scoop of rice. She reached for her cane, but Lucas stood up to help her. She waved him off with a gentle smile. It's all right, I need to do it myself. You have no idea how happy it makes me just to take a single step on my own. Seeing that Lily wasn't moving to help, Lucas stood back, watching as Sophia took one agonizing step after another, as if walking barefoot on broken glass. And yet, she looked genuinely happy. A quiet fell over the table, and the sound of the rain outside became clear, a soft, soothing patter. You knew exactly how you were going to convince my mom from the start, didn't you? Lily asked in a low voice, no longer eating. Of course, Lucas said, feeling smug. A good strategist creates the situation. They don't just react to it. You have to lead your opponent into the trap you've already set, not dig one on the fly and hope they fall in. Lily looked up at him, a dawning realization in her clear eyes. Is that how you tricked me back then, too? Lucas jumped, accidentally dipping his finger into his bowl of tomato soup. How can you slander me like that? He said, trying to look composed. He was about to launch into a defense when Sophia called from the kitchen. Lily, honey, could you come here for a second? I can't get this faucet to turn on. Lucas glanced at the soup on his finger. Hey, do you have a napkin? Lily looked around, but couldn't find one. She glanced toward the kitchen, then back at him. She took his hand, tucked a stray piece of hair behind her ear with her other, and lowered her head. She gently sucked the soup from his fingertip, then, without a word, turned and rushed into the kitchen, her face flushed. Question mark. Lucas stared at his now slightly damp finger, a cool sensation spreading across his skin. His mind replayed the warm, soft feeling over and over. His brain had just short-circuited. A few seconds later, a mortified voice echoed from the kitchen. Don't you dare put that in your mouth. I didn't. That weekend, Lucas actually took Lily to look at apartments. She couldn't quite figure out why he was bringing her along when they weren't even engaged. Seeing how young Lucas was, the real estate agent was incredibly attentive, assuming he was some rich kid. But when she overheard him on the phone with Jason, discussing their company's growth, her attentiveness went into overdrive. She was so solicitous, constantly offering them water, that had started to unnerve Lily. After a few viewings, they sat in the car, looking over a stack of floor plans. "I thought you'd pick a place near campus," Lily said softly. "Too expensive," Lucas said, though he was smirking internally. "The places out here are cheaper, the neighborhood is nice, and there's a park nearby. Besides," he thought, "how am I supposed to trick you into living with me if I buy a place right next to campus?" This wasn't their forever home, anyway. When he actually married this goofball, he'd get her a penthouse or a house with a yard. "Should we get a ground floor place? Or one with an elevator? I'm worried your mom might get stuck if the power goes out," he continued. Lily thought for a moment. "She doesn't like to go out much when I'm not home." "An elevator it is, then. Ground floor and top floor apartments always have issues." "But this is your apartment," Lily said, feeling a little embarrassed. "You're always thinking about us." Lucas's eyes remained on the floor plans, but his voice was firm. "This is our apartment. Let's just go with this 2-bedroom. It's already partially furnished," he said, slumping back in his seat, suddenly exhausted. "I'm so tired of looking." The apartment was a 15-minute drive from his parents' house, but not particularly close to the university, which was perfect. Buying this one would also leave a good chunk of cash for the company. "It's already 1 o'clock. Are you hungry?" Lily leaned closer, her voice a whisper. Lucas glanced out the window, scouting for food. "A little. Let's eat out. What do you feel like? We still have to buy the apartment. We should save money." Lucas smiled and poked her forehead. "You silly goose. You can't save your way into a mortgage." In the end, they compromised, stopping at a small diner where they each got a bowl of soup for $10. That afternoon, back at his rental, Lily sat properly at the desk, diligently practicing her digital painting. Lucas sat nearby, his legs crossed, studying the speech he had to give at the end of the month. Neither of them spoke, but they both cherished the comfortable silence. Whenever one of them felt tired, they'd look up to see what the other was doing and feel a renewed sense of energy. Occasionally, their eyes would meet by chance, and Lily would always be the first to look away. Lucas ran a hand through his hair in frustration, having written less than 500 words in half an hour. After a moment of silent venting, he buckled down and got back to work. This speech was a huge promotional opportunity for the game, a chance to generate buzz on campus that he couldn't afford to waste. In an era where attention was currency, you had to ride every wave of hype you could. If necessary, he'd become a marketing tool himself. Good publicity, bad publicity, as long as people were talking, it was a win. The only real failure was silence. For a mobile game, hype was money. It was why so many developers paid for fan art and other community creations. "Do you think I'll ever have a chance to make money with my art?" Lily asked suddenly. "Aaron says I have a lot of talent." "I think so. The guys on the art team all say you've got a gift," Lucas replied, nodding. He'd actually asked him about it before. "But if you're going to make art your job, you have to promise me you'll find a new hobby." "You're so strict," Lily said, a rare hint of a pout in her voice. Finding a hobby was a chore. She was perfectly happy just spending time with him. Couldn't her boyfriend be her hobby? Subjectively speaking, time is never constant. When you're happy, it flies by in a flash. When you're sad, every day feels like a year. The two of them worked on their own things, mostly in silence, chatting intermittently. Often, one of them would get lost in their work and the conversation would drop, only to be picked up again later as if no time had passed. In the blink of an eye, it was 3 in the afternoon. "I've gotten lazy," Lily said suddenly. Lucas frowned. If she was lazy, what did that make him? "How have you gotten lazy? I haven't noticed." As he spoke, he focused on taking a picture of her as she drew on her tablet. In the viewfinder, she was the picture of serene concentration, her long hair loose, her eyes fixed on the screen. He couldn't figure out how she managed to look so beautiful in every single photo, as if she descended from the heavens just to be his wife. Of course, the illusion shattered the moment she spoke. At first glance, she was an ethereal beauty, but one word was all it took to reveal her true, goofy nature. Lily propped her chin in her hands and pouted at him. "I just feel like I've lost my edge a little." Lucas shrugged. "Everyone's lazy. Before I started the company, all I could think was, if I could just make 10 grand a month, I'll work like a dog until I die. Now, I've made hundreds of thousands, and I still don't want to work." "Why?" Lily found that strange. "Because now I'm thinking, if I can just make a few million, then I'll work like a dog until I die." Lily was speechless. Lucas had just proven with his own actions that her feelings weren't unique. Her gaze lingered on his handsome face, still feeling a little lost. The tension she had lived with for over a decade had suddenly snapped, and she honestly didn't know how to live a normal life anymore. She had the kind strangers who had donated to her mother's surgery to thank for even having the chance to ponder such a question. Lucas glanced at his own finger, a rare blush creeping up his neck. He held out his index finger. "Are you still hungry?" Lily's face instantly turned crimson, and her breathing quickened. I told you to forget about that, she hissed. She was dying of regret. Why couldn't he just pretend it never happened? The more she thought about it, the angrier she got, and she had to fight the urge to stand up and headbutt him. Then she realized her train of thought sounded a bit like a jerk's, which made her even more embarrassed. She buried her face in her arms on the desk, like an ostrich. How about we switch, then? You let me have a taste. Lucas pressed. I was wrong. Stop. That hurts. Don't hit my kidneys. After a few moments of theatrical wailing, Lucas was lying on the sofa. Lily was curled up on top of him like a cat, her cheek resting against his chest, listening quietly to the rhythm of his heart. I like this, Lily murmured with her eyes closed. Perhaps she was tired from drawing, because her voice sounded a little weary. That was the thing about her. Most people would doodle for fun, but she approached it with the same intensity she applied to her studies. But after seeing how much joy it brought her, Lucas hadn't said anything more. His hand drifted through her hair, finally settling on her waist. I like it. He looked at the girl lying on him, a thoughtful expression on his face. It's only been a few months, but you've changed so much. Back then, she was so shy she'd only move when he told her to while he was applying medicine on her back. Now, she was teasing him into knots. But fundamentally, she hadn't changed at all. She had always only looked fragile. In reality, she was stronger and braver than anyone he knew. He often thought that if he'd been in her shoes, he might have survived, but he would have been twisted by it. He wouldn't have kept his kindness. As for their relationship, when he had decided to walk 50 steps toward her, he looked up and realized she had already sprinted the other 50. The scenario where one person walks 99 steps while the other takes one, or none at all, didn't exist for them. Which version of me do you like? Lily asked. She felt the changes in herself, too. It was hard for a person to notice their own gradual transformation, but she knew with certainty that she was happier with each passing day. I like all of them. As soon as he said it, he saw Lily lift her head to look at him. Why is it that even when you're saying something so serious, your hands can't behave? She was starting to regret buying these button-up pajamas. They made it far too easy for him to be a hooligan. She now seriously suspected this was a trap he had laid for her from the beginning. The man was devious enough to plan something like this weeks in advance. Can a guy do a little window shopping? Lucas said, his expression perfectly innocent as his hand continued its upward climb. Lily gave him a light nip, but she didn't stop him. She was lying on her stomach. Anyway, in the end, aren't you the one who's going to suffer? She wondered aloud. Thanks to a certain theoretical expert in her life who operated at near supersonic speeds, there wasn't much she didn't know. It's sweet torture, Lucas replied shamelessly. Lily didn't say anything more, closing her eyes and nuzzling his chest. Fine, let him window shop, she thought. She felt like he had it rough, too. He never pushed her to change. He always waited for her to be ready before taking another step. He never even tested the waters on things she wasn't comfortable with. Thinking of this, she lowered her head a little more, hiding the small smile that played on her lips. A feeling of contentment and security washed over her, and she focused all her attention on the steady beat of his heart. After a while, Lucas noticed her breathing had become even and steady. He gently poked her head. She was really asleep. He snorted silently. I'm in the middle of making a move on you, and you fall asleep? Not a single shred of vigilance. Wasn't she afraid she'd wake up to find she'd been completely devoured? He couldn't help but smile, inhaling the faint, sweet scent of her hair and pulling her closer. Unconsciously, his own eyes drifted shut. When he woke again, Lily was sitting beside him, gently shaking his arm. You have a call, she whispered. Lucas yawned, his arms still tingling, and picked up his phone. It was past 6. He saw Jason's name and answered. This had better be important. You just interrupted your old man's beauty sleep. He'd finally got a nap with her, and this was how it ended? A rebellious son, truly. Jason's voice on the other end was unusually serious. It is actually, are you at your apartment? I need to talk to you in person. Lucas blinked. Yeah, come on over. After the call ended, Lucas was still in a daze, staring blankly at Lily. She had only woken up a few seconds before him and was just as disoriented. How had she fallen asleep on top of him like that? Jason's on his way over. No idea what's up, Lucas said, staggering to his feet and heading to the bathroom. He splashed some water on his face to wake himself up. For someone as naturally goofy as Jason to sound serious, it had to be something big. When he came out, the ostrich that had been on the sofa was gone. He turned and saw the closed door to Lily's room, the guest room. Lucas smirked. It's just a nap. What's the big deal? He called out with a laugh. I'm changing, came the muffled reply. Lucas tilted his head. Those pajamas cover more than your regular clothes. What's the point? It was almost like they were really living together. He remembered how his mom, Emily, would have the same reaction whenever guests came over unexpectedly when he was a kid. A few minutes later, Jason knocked and walked in. He froze the moment he saw Lily. The words he'd been about to say got stuck in his throat. His eyes went wide, and he stared at Lucas. Seeing both of them looking sleepy and utterly exhausted, his eyes got even wider. Lucas could read exactly what was going through Jason's mind. "Let's talk in my room," he sighed. Jason slowly closed the bedroom door, his face a mask of utter disbelief. "What the hell is your secret, man? Not even I move this fast," he finally exploded, his hands already around Lucas's neck. He couldn't stand to see his bro struggling, but he also couldn't stand to see him winning this hard. Lucas disdainfully slapped his hands away. "You've got it all wrong. She just naps here sometimes when she has class. She doesn't have a dorm, and her mom's place is too far." Jason's scowl didn't budge. "So you're not living together?" "Not living together. And you haven't. You know, we literally just took a nap," Lucas said with a yawn, a sly smile playing on his lips. "And you expect me to believe that crap?" Jason didn't believe a single word. He plopped down on the edge of the bed. "Seriously, though, what happens if your mom decides to do a surprise inspection?" "Not gonna happen," Lucas said, not wanting to get into it. The more he explained, the guiltier he'd sound. It was better to just let Jason's imagination run wild. "My power is fueled by your assumptions. So what's the big emergency you had to tell me in person?" Jason let out a long breath. "Someone from Titan Gaming came by the office, but you weren't there. I gave them a quick tour." Lucas raised an eyebrow. That was new. It was a bold move, showing up unannounced, but the fact that they'd sent someone in person meant they were serious. "What do they want?" "Long story short, they want to acquire our studio," Jason said, his voice low. "Especially you. We can talk about investment down the line, but an acquisition is off the table," Lucas said flatly. Things were going exactly according to plan. There was no way he was going to suddenly change course and work for someone else. Jason seemed to relax at Lucas's response, but he continued. "You should hear the offer first. It's insane. Doesn't matter how good it is," Lucas cut him off. "I like things the way they are." A smile finally broke through Jason's serious expression. "All right, then I'll just turn them down. I think they're staying at a hotel nearby." Although he would have supported Lucas either way, he was terrified he might have actually said yes. If that happened, his dream of making games would have come true, but he'd never get to make the game of his dreams. When you work for someone else, you have to prioritize profit. Once they made it big on their own, they wouldn't have to worry about that. Lucas shook his head. "If we're turning them down, then we need to pivot and talk about an investment partnership." "What do you mean?" Jason asked, confused. "If you don't give them a piece of the pie, they'll just suck you dry." The business world was a battlefield. A small fish had to act like a small fish and have the wits to survive if it wanted to make it. Lucas would bet his life that if they sent Titan home empty-handed, a bigger, better-funded competitor would be in beta testing within a few months. How was a small indie studio supposed to compete with that? Jason was starting to understand. So, they could just show up and take a bite out of us? Is it even legal? Lucas looked at him like he was an idiot. "You think I let them get a free ride? We're going to need them for something very soon." Seeing the look on Lucas's face, the weight in Jason's chest lifted. He clapped him on the shoulder. "Are you secretly a genius or something? You didn't tell them where I was, did you?" Lucas asked. "No. I figured telling them the guy in charge was slacking off wouldn't be a great look. I told them you were still busy. I had to make up an excuse just to get away and come find you." "Good. Tonight, you take them out to dinner alone. Tell them I'm out of state, meeting with another company. Tomorrow, I'll rush back, and we can start talking partnership. And that's how it's done." "You are a devious bastard," Jason said, before turning and leaving the room. Lucas walked back into the living room and watched the front door close, letting out a long sigh. Lily came to his side, looking at him with curiosity. It was clear they had been discussing something incredibly important. "I never would have imagined my life would be anything but peaceful," Lucas said suddenly. He was, by nature, a professional slacker. But even as the words left his mouth, he knew. From the moment Sophia needed surgery and Jason had offered up his entire share of the profits, without a second thought, he had decided he was in this with him until the very end. "You don't like how things are now?" Lily asked softly. Lucas slowly took her hand, feeling the calluses on her palm. His resolve hardened. "I used to hate complications. Now I love them." Lily bit her lip and pulled him toward the bathroom mirror. "Look at the dark circles under your eyes." "What about them?" "Still handsome as ever." Lucas deflected with a straight face. "Okay, so his hair was a little long, but that was a minor detail." Lily's cheeks puffed out. "I'm telling you to look at your dark circles." He was treating her like an idiot, changing the subject like that. She had to admit he was still handsome, but that wasn't the point. "It's fine. Not that bad. While Lucas could spot dark circles on Lily's face from a mile away, he was far less concerned about his own. He looked like he was turning into a panda, but he still thought it wasn't serious. Their whole office was starting to look like a zoo lately. Everyone was running on fumes. The profits were skyrocketing, but so was the workload. Have you been really tired lately? Lily asked softly, gently cupping his face in her hands. Her eyes, shimmering like pools of water, were filled with concern. Including this afternoon, she had lost count of how many times he had fallen asleep the moment he lay down. Even if she didn't understand how to run a company, she could see that his relaxed demeanor was just an act. It's been a little hectic, that's all, Lucas said, covering her hands with his own. How else do you think we got that apartment? I don't want you to be so exhausted. It seemed to click for Lucas. So, on the way to your mom's, when you said you wanted to be my sugar mama. Was that why? Yes, Lily said, wrapping her arms around his waist and hugging him tightly. If this isn't your dream, then please don't push yourself so hard. I'll graduate in 2 years. We can earn money together. And my mom said it before. We don't care about a big wedding or anything. If you're just doing this to give me a better life, then please stop. I'm scared you're going to burn out. If I'm overthinking it, then just forget I said anything. Her words were clumsy, laced with anxiety and a lack of confidence. Lucas looked at their reflection in the mirror and thought for a moment. What do you think a dream is? He asked softly. Lily looked up at him. I don't know. I'm not that ambitious. My dream is for your dream to come true. Lucas froze, then smiled and kissed the back of her hand. This goofball didn't realize that the more she said things like that, the harder he wanted to work for her. What man could bear to let a girl like this struggle? Let her graduate into the 9 to 5 corporate grind like everyone else? Not a chance. Of course I have to give you a better life. I can't have you suffering after you marry me, can I? For once, Lily's gaze was solemn, her voice firm. If you're willing to marry me, I'll marry you even if you don't have a penny. To someone who had lost a loved one, nothing was more important than health. You silly goose, Lucas said, gently poking her forehead before walking back into the living room. He knew she meant it. A few months ago, he might have hesitated. If his parents weren't a factor, he could get a decent job, handle a mortgage, and they'd live a comfortable life. But now he had proven he was capable of giving her more, and there was no reason to back down. The small bathroom felt empty and silent again. Lily stared at the doorway, sighing deeply. She suddenly didn't know what to do. She remembered Lucas telling her a long time ago that they should always communicate if they disagreed. But now that her own desires were at odds with his, she didn't know if she should press the issue. Just as her thoughts began to spiral, Lucas reappeared, a curious look on his face. What's wrong? He asked gently. Lily shook her head. Are you hungry? I should eat before I head home. I'll see what's in the fridge. Don't bother. There's nothing left but some spinach, she said with a sigh. It was astounding how she knew the contents of his fridge better than he did. Lucas turned and stared at her, utterly speechless. A few minutes later, they were dressed and walking hand in hand downstairs. Lucas looked incredibly pleased with himself. While they were still a ways off from actually living together, this was starting to feel like a pretty convincing dress rehearsal. The moment they stepped outside, they were hit by the incessant drone of cicadas. Maybe they were getting desperate, not having found a mate yet, but Lucas thought they sounded louder than ever. These things are giving me a headache, he grumbled. Lily paused, looking around. I hear a cat. Lots of people have cats. It's normal, Lucas said dismissively. He'd bugged his mom for a cat in middle school, but Emily had shut him down, arguing he could barely take care of himself. He'd been indignant at the time, but now he saw her point. Weren't we all just useless lumps who could only shout, Mom, I'm hungry? As an adult, he'd much rather have someone take care of him like a cat. Lily followed the sound and found a small gray kitten huddled in a bush. Lucas came over, only then hearing the faint, weak meows. Doesn't look like a stray, he said, leaning in. He tore off half the slice of bread he'd been chewing on and offered it to the kitten. Seeing that the cat wasn't hostile, Lily tentatively reached out and stroked its fur. Then she did it again. Lucas couldn't help but smile. Was it impossible for girls to resist fluffy creatures? I didn't know you liked cats so much, he said, surprised. For some reason, his voice sounded a little sour. Lily stood up, dusted off her hands, and walked over to him. She planted a kiss on his cheek. I like you, she said playfully. Lucas turned away, clearing his throat loudly. I'm not jealous of a cat. He scowled. He wasn't. Not at all. Lily just smiled and linked her arm through his. Who taught you to be like this? He couldn't help but ask. Her progress was so rapid, he was having trouble keeping up. It wasn't that he wasn't trying, but how was he supposed to compete when she was dropping bombshells like it was nothing? You don't like it? I like it too much. That's why I'm asking. Lily leaned her whole body against his, her arm pressed tightly to his side. No one taught me. It just happens. I think the way you get all flustered is really cute. I can see in your expression that you like me and that you're happy. So, over time, I just learned. Why are you so warm? Lucas paused, pressing the back of his hand to her forehead. Are you running a fever? Lucas frowned, then placed his hand on his own forehead. It wasn't the same at all. Lily definitely had a fever. She didn't seem concerned. It's nothing. Let's go get groceries. I'll feel fine after a good night's sleep at home. She would bet anything that if she went home now, Lucas would be too lazy to cook for himself and would just order takeout. Seeing him staring at her, she lowered her head like a guilty child. Fine. I'll go home and rest right now. Lucas pinched her soft cheek. You'll really go home and rest? He couldn't let her go. She wouldn't rest. He had a feeling she wouldn't even tell Sophia she was sick. She would just go home and try to act normal, hiding it from her mom. That day it rained. When you were waiting for me with the umbrella, did you have a fever then too? Lucas pressed. He'd thought she felt a little warm at the time, but since she always ran a little warmer than him, he hadn't thought much of it. Damn it. Why didn't I think much of it? He wanted to slap himself. Oh, a little bit, Lily mumbled. She didn't dare tell him that she'd caught a cold from being out in the wind and rain that day, and just hadn't gotten over it. Lucas used both hands now, pinching both her cheeks. You're a better actor than I am. It made sense. She'd probably been forcing herself to act fine while she was sick her whole life. If he hadn't happened to touch her arm when they came outside, he never would have noticed. On the surface, she looked perfectly healthy. You're under arrest, Ms. Thompson, Lucas said suddenly. You can either let me take you to a clinic, or you can go upstairs and rest. Lily instinctively took a step back. I can't explain it to my mom. It's not even raining today. Instead of answering, Lucas dialed a number. Yo, what's up? A lazy voice came through the phone. 1 week, paid time off. You want it? Lucas got straight to the point. All right, what do you need? Aaron Thompson said without a moment's hesitation. Lucas nodded, satisfied. It was so much easier talking to smart people. You suddenly come down with appendicitis and have to be hospitalized. Lily is staying with you at the hospital tonight to take care of you. Got it. Are you kidding me? For that paltry sum, you want me to sell out Lily and be your wingwoman? Do you know what she means to me? The voice on the other end became deadly serious. She's my only best friend. We've known each other since freshman orientation. She's the best. I'll add another 7 days, but not consecutive. Gotta go, I think my appendix just burst. Aaron hung up. Lucas lowered his phone and shrugged at Lily, trying to hold back a laugh. He pointed a thumb toward the apartment building. Seeing the utterly gobsmacked expression on her face as she realized she'd been completely sold out by her best friend made it even harder not to crack up. But he couldn't laugh now. If he laughed, she'd try to use her cuteness to get out of it. I don't want to go to the hospital, Lily said, fidgeting. It was her least favorite place in the world. Lucas stepped forward and took her hand. Then you'll go upstairs and rest. With Aaron as your alibi, your mom won't worry. And you'll have your boyfriend to take care of you. Isn't that nice? She glanced at him nervously. I'm a patient now. You can't bully me. I didn't bully you last time you slept over, did I? Reassured, Lily lowered her eyes and started climbing the stairs one step at a time. Whether it was her temperature rising or the sudden release of tension, she felt weak, and her eyelids were heavy. The moment Lucas had said he would take care of her, it was as if all her years of experience toughing out fevers had been wiped clean. She had transformed into a delicate girl who would topple over with a gentle push. She finally understood why people said happiness makes you weak. Back in the apartment, Lucas urged Lily into bed and then ran to a nearby pharmacy for a thermometer and fever reducer. Lily buried her head under the covers, curling into a ball against the chill. Her eyes were closed, her breathing was hot, and she drifted in a state between sleep and wakefulness. In her daze, she felt Lucas sit beside her again, though she was sure he had just left. Take your temperature, he said with a soft laugh. You said there was spinach in the fridge, right? I'll make you some pasta. Emma begged me to cook for her, and I never do. You're getting the special treatment today. He knew she disliked takeout, so there was no point in asking. Lily emerged from the covers, her hair a bit messy, but still unable to hide her charm. She smiled sweetly at him. Okay. After Lucas left, she closed her eyes again. She didn't check the time. She knew he was keeping closer track of it than she was. Sure enough, the sound of chopping from the kitchen stopped, followed by hurried footsteps. Let me see what it says. Lucas slowly rotated the mercury thermometer, searching for the right angle to read it. He didn't trust the digital ones, and he didn't much like the mercury ones either. They were a hassle. What is it? Lily whispered, her voice even drowsier than before. 101.1. Lucas carefully put the thermometer away, then couldn't resist pinching her cheek again. Now I know why you're so silly. You've burnt out all your brain cells by not resting when you have a fever. Now, take your medicine. I'm cold, she said pitifully after swallowing the pills. I'll hold you, then you won't be cold. Lily didn't refuse, obediently making room for him. Lucas wasn't in the mood to tease a sick Lily. He simply laid down beside her, pulled the covers up, and wrapped her in his arms. Her skin was hot to the touch, like a little furnace. She buried her face in the crook of his neck, actively holding him tighter. Her breath was hotter than usual, tickling his neck along with her soft hair. Still cold? He asked gently. Lily snuggled deeper into his embrace. Not anymore. All right, I'll hold you for a little longer, then I'll go make you dinner. You can sleep after you eat. As he spoke, he saw the corners of her mouth curl up into a smile. Hey, what are you smiling about? You're sick. I just feel so happy. You goofball, Lucas said, exasperated. She was too easily pleased. My birthday is coming up soon. I'm more aware of that than you are. Lily hugged him tighter, perhaps enjoying the special privileges of being a patient. Her movements were more intimate than usual. And my next birthday is less than 13 months away. Then I'll be 20. I'm more aware of that than you are, too. Huh, I wonder what this little goofball is hinting at. A while later, realizing Lily had fallen asleep, Lucas tried to carefully slip away. He had just started to get up to go to the kitchen when he found his arm was still trapped in her embrace. She was clinging to him like an octopus, one leg thrown over his, pinning him down. Perhaps sensing its prey was struggling, the sleeping octopus tightened its tentacles, pulling him back and wrapping itself around him completely. Held fast in a grip like a child hugging a teddy bear, Lucas didn't dare move. He stared blankly at the ceiling, blinking. He clearly hadn't processed the situation. It was unbelievable. He had a whole playbook of schemes he hadn't even used yet, and his plan to sleep in the same bed with her had been accomplished this easily. Just like that. Report to command. I seem to have infiltrated the enemy's inner sanctum through unconventional means. The sun had set completely, and twilight settled over the city. As the sky darkened, the world itself seemed to slow down. This was especially true in the old apartment complex, where the children who had been playing outside had all gone home. Looking out, nearly every window, framed by old-fashioned security bars, was lit up. Only one window remained dark. Lucas hadn't moved since Lily had latched onto him, which meant he hadn't been able to get up and turn on a light. He quietly watched the hazy nightscape outside, his feelings a tangled mess. He never would have imagined that his first time sharing a bed with a girl would unfold like this. He couldn't think about anything else. He was too busy worrying. He had lost count of how many times he had touched Lily's forehead, terrified her fever would spike again. Lily, on the other hand, was sleeping soundly. The goofball had no defenses up around him at all, even though she was always calling him a hooligan. Girls were such strange creatures. Lucas sighed internally and reached out to check her forehead again. He had to admit, she was soft all over and incredibly comfortable to hold. Perhaps his movement was too large this time, because the girl in his arms let out a small whimper and slowly opened her eyes. Still feeling sick? Are you hungry? Lucas whispered. A little, Lily murmured, still half asleep. It wasn't clear which question she was answering. Before she could realize she was wrapped around him like an octopus, she snuggled deeper into his arms. What time is it? A little after 8. Want to sleep more? If not, you should sit up and drink some water, and I'll make you dinner. Don't want to sleep, and I don't want to eat, Lily said, her voice heavy. Then what do you want to do? Lily seemed to be waking up now. She smiled, lifted her face, and kissed his neck. I just want to cling to you like this. Lucas took a deep breath. Her temperature had come down, but her breath was still warm against his skin. Have you not had anyone take care of you when you're sick in a long time? This is the first time, she said. After a moment's thought, she added, since I can remember, anyway. The dim room fell silent. In the darkness, Lily only felt Lucas pull her closer, his embrace saying everything he couldn't put into words. A smile touched Lily's lips, and she hugged him back just as tightly, both of them trying to melt into the other. After a while, she asked, will I get you sick? Her skin was slick with a light sheen of sweat, and a few strands of hair were plastered to her cheeks. She pulled back slightly. Girls always wanted to show their best side to the person they liked, and a sweaty mess didn't fit the bill. No, Lucas said flatly, but it wouldn't be so bad if you did. Then I could experience what it's like to be taken care of by you. You can experience that even if you're not sick. I'm holding you to that. Final interpretation is subject to my discretion, Lily added in a tiny voice. She had a feeling Lucas was up to no good. He was being a gentleman now because she was sick, but later, who knew? If she really treated him like a patient, he might just be even more tempted to bully her. After all, he probably had some weird kinks. Aaron called it role-playing. The smile on Lucas's face froze. He poked her forehead firmly. You're learning to be devious. Final interpretation is subject to her discretion. This goofball was becoming sly. No, I'm not. Lily shifted, settling on her side in a prim and proper way. Her clear, watery eyes blinked up at him. I want to sleep a little more. Will you help me fall asleep? She asked softly. She didn't know why, but today she felt especially needy, as if she was trying to make up for all the years of affection she had missed out on. Then, she seemed to reconsider, and she reached out to pat his stomach, worried she was being too selfish. You have to eat after I fall asleep. I bet you haven't eaten yet. Okay, Lucas said, half amused, half touched that she was still thinking about him. Lily suddenly buried her face against his body. Can you unhook that? She mumbled, her voice almost inaudible. Unhook what? You know what? She said, her voice a mix of frustration and embarrassment. She wanted to die. Are you trying to make a move on me? Lucas raised his eyebrows. As a guy, he didn't quite understand the logic here. Lily took a deep breath, regretting everything. She should have just suffered through the night. Girls always unhook it to sleep. It's really uncomfortable otherwise. Just unhook it? You don't need me to help you take it off. Lucas asked with solicitous concern, his expression one of pure, helpful innocence. Lily was silent for 2 seconds, then bit him hard. Lucas winced, but his words became much more respectful. He obediently reached his arms around her, fumbling like he was disarming a bomb. And for good reason. A knife, no, a set of teeth was currently poised at his neck. He was certain that any untoward move would result in another, much more vicious bite. For the first time in his life, he found himself wishing the room wasn't so dark because he couldn't see a thing. Lily was dying of shame, her face buried deep, refusing to look at him. He tilted his head back, his hands moving under her shirt, searching. The moment his fingers brushed against the smooth skin of her back, his heart started hammering against his ribs. After a moment of exploration, he located the 3 clasps of the bomb's fuse and began his work. Maybe it was because he was so nervous, but despite the simple construction, it took him a solid 30 seconds to undo all 3 hooks. The instant the last one came free, he thought his heart would burst out of his chest. Seeing it was one kind of thrill, touching it was something else entirely. Sensing the bomb had been disarmed, Lily quickly pressed his hands down, giving him no chance to take further advantage. Lucas obediently withdrew his hands. So that's why they say most guys who can undo one of these with one hand are players, he thought. This thing is a pain to unhook, especially when you're flying blind. If you're uncomfortable sleeping like that, you can take it off and hide it somewhere, Lucas said earnestly. I'll go boil some water for you. I'll leave as soon as you're asleep. The words had barely left his mouth when the girl hugged him again, pressing her whole body against his. I don't want you to go, Lily whispered. Perhaps it was the sickness, but her voice was strangely soft and pleading. Hiss. Lucas sucked in a sharp breath. How is she getting so good at this? Who could possibly resist? All right, I won't go. I'll just go boil the water and come right back. No, not even that. Lily hugged him even tighter. Maybe it was the lack of restraint, but Lucas felt the soft curves against him were even more pronounced. If you keep this up, I won't be able to control myself, Lucas said. I'm a patient, Lily reminded him again. Lucas arched his back slightly, a silent groan caught in his throat. After mentally chanting, I am a gentleman several times, he said softly, Okay, then I'll help you fall asleep. He said he would, but in reality, he had no idea how. The last time he'd helped a girl fall asleep was when his sister, Emma, was in elementary school. But Emma was a force of nature. She could have a mountain of homework and still pass out the second her head hit the pillow. They looked at each other in the darkness, and even though they couldn't see clearly, they could feel the contented smiles on each other's faces. Lucas sighed. To be honest, I have no idea how to do this. Lily blinked. Me neither. No one's ever done this for me before. While Lucas was still pondering, Lily propped herself up, moved his arm to rest on her pillow, and then carefully laid her head down on it. Still not satisfied, she wriggled closer into his embrace and finally went still. This is good, she murmured with her eyes closed. She felt like she could fall asleep in seconds. She had never felt so safe. Seeing the slight curve of her lips, Lucas smiled too. You're too easy to please. How about I tell you a story? Lily looked up at him. Isn't it a little childish to fall asleep to a story at my age? Though, she had to admit, she really wanted to experience it. It's fine. I'm being childish with you, aren't I? Lucas said, his expression casual. As long as it made her happy, what did it matter? Lily fell silent, just holding him tighter, unable to wipe the sweet smile off her face. Lucas smiled and kissed her forehead. It seemed that being sick brought out a different, impossibly cute side of her. He pulled up a random fairy tale on his phone and began to read it in a low, soft voice. It was actually pretty fun. The two of them, with a combined age of 40, were getting this much enjoyment out of a children's story. Whenever he couldn't help but criticize the plot, it would always make Lily laugh. "What do you think the big bad wolf normally eats?" Lucas asked. "Meat, obviously. So he eats meat, while also being friends with all the little animals in the forest?" Lily burrowed deeper under the covers. Suddenly this story feels a lot darker. What kind of person thinks of things like that? Her boyfriend had a bit of a dark side. Lucas just smiled at her. "It's a pretty common plot, actually. For example, I'm being your boyfriend right now, while also plotting how to devour you whole." "You hooligan," Lily said, giving him a light kick under the covers. Lucas arched his back again, trying to remain calm. "Don't move around like that. See? You were thinking bad thoughts." "I wasn't. My body has a mind of its own." After this much physical contact, Lily would have to be clueless not to understand his reactions. Is it really uncomfortable for you?" she asked timidly. "It's fine," Lucas said, his jaw tight. "If it's really that bad, then I can help you," she whispered. Lucas froze. He felt he no longer needed to wonder where she was learning these things. Before his brain could catch up, his mouth asked, "Are you serious?" Lily pouted at him and huffed. "You said you weren't thinking about it." "You." As reason and intelligence came back online, the words died in his throat. All he could do was issue a weak threat. "I'm warning you. If you keep this up, you're going to regret it." Lily hid under the covers, leaving only the top half of her face visible. Her clear, beautiful eyes blinked at him. "But I'm still sick." Lucas was completely stunned. This was the first time he had ever fallen into a trap set by Lily, experiencing the utter humiliation of being completely outmaneuvered. Her progress was terrifying. It had always been a one-sided domination, but now, things were changing. He had a sudden realization. Lily was getting smarter. If he kept this up, he was going to be the rabbit in the story of the tortoise and the hare. His reputation as a master strategist would be ruined. After finally managing to change the subject, Lucas dutifully read the story for a while longer. When he turned to say something else, he found that the girl beside him had already fallen asleep, a faint smile still on her lips. For her, the content of the story didn't matter at all. Just hearing his voice was enough to make her feel safe. Lucas quietly lay down beside her and slowly closed his eyes. A moment later, they snapped open again. He just couldn't sleep. With a helpless sigh, he sat up, tucked the covers around the sleeping girl, and quietly returned to his own room. The next morning, a light rain had started sometime during the night, leaving the air unusually cool. Lily woke up at her usual time, her internal clock as reliable as ever. After washing up, she went to Lucas's room. She propped her chin on her hands and leaned against the side of the bed, quietly watching him sleep. She would never tell him that she spent every day thinking of new ways to make him happy. How else would she have learned so many flirtatious lines? She'd never even been in a relationship before. She couldn't get enough of the sight. Finally, she pulled out her phone, wanting to capture the moment. Just as she framed the shot, Lucas's phone alarm went off. He and a frantic Lily stared at each other, the atmosphere suddenly awkward. "You're better?" Lucas asked. Lily nodded, embarrassed. "I'm better. Let me check." Lily bit her lip, climbed onto the bed, and obediently leaned closer. "I thought you were going to check my forehead." She shouldn't have trusted him. "I'm checking your conscience. How dare you try to take secret pictures of me?" Lucas said, no longer teasing. He sat up and placed his hand on her forehead, relieved to find her temperature was normal. This goofball was getting more devious by the day. If he hadn't been worried about her fever and set multiple alarms, she would have gotten away with it. Just as he turned off his alarm, a new ringtone filled the room. This time it was Lily's phone, playing the same song Lucas had once sung to her, which had been her ringtone ever since. Lily glanced at the caller ID and shot to her feet. It's my mom. What are you panicking for?" Lucas chuckled at her frantic state. It wasn't like they'd actually done anything. Well, except for that little bit of mischief just now. Lily took 2 deep breaths, her hand trembling as she answered the call. "Hi, Mom," she said, her voice barely a whisper. She twisted the hem of her shirt in her free hand. A kind voice came through the phone. "Honey, what are you up to?" Lily's mind went blank. She took so long to answer that Sophia thought the call had dropped. After her mom called her name a few more times, she finally blurted out, "I was just about to go get us some breakfast." "How's Erin?" Lily paused. She's okay." Sophia sighed. "I looked it up online, and it says that condition needs surgery." "Oh, that poor child," sick with no family around. I hear it's incredibly painful when it flares up. You take good care of her, you hear? Lily's mouth hung open. Oh, it is. It's painful. A few seconds later, she saw the words Lucas had typed on his phone screen and read them aloud without thinking. She was in so much pain, she cried all night, just rolling around. Halfway through, she realized how ridiculous it sounded, but she didn't know how to backtrack. She just squeezed her eyes shut and finished the sentence, then shot Lucas a look that was equal parts shame and fury. Why couldn't he ever pass up an opportunity to mess with her? Lucas could barely contain himself, biting his lip so hard he thought it might bleed to keep from laughing out loud. He decided Aaron was officially just as useful a wing person as Jason. Sophia offered a few more words of encouragement and then hung up. Lily finally relaxed, slumping onto the edge of the bed as if she'd just run a marathon. She was clearly a terrible liar. She let out a long sigh and fell back onto the bed, then rolled over and buried her face in Lucas's side. I feel like I'm turning into a bad kid. Congratulations, you're officially an adult. The kind who lies to their parents about staying out all night, Lucas teased. For some reason, what had felt like nothing before now felt strangely thrilling. You be quiet. Lily nipped his shoulder, then buried her face in his neck. You're a bad influence on me. Even though she'd only done it so Sophia wouldn't worry, it still felt wrong. Her cheeks were burning, though she couldn't tell if it was from embarrassment or a lingering fever. If you're not going to be my accomplice, whose accomplice are you going to be? Lucas said dismissively. I'd advise you to just give up now. You're destined to be corrupted by my evil influence. He was about to grab his phone to check the time when he saw his mom was calling. This time, it was his turn to jolt upright, startling Lily. He didn't answer right away, letting it ring a few more times before picking up, his voice deliberately groggy. Mom, what's up so early? You woke me up. Unlike Lily's stammering, his lies were smooth and effortless. Emily's voice was electric with excitement. Your dad told me you're giving a speech at the university at the end of the month. Is that true? Of course it is. And the school isn't even providing a script. I've been so stressed about it. I'm losing my hair. That's wonderful. Emily praised him with a laugh. You weren't this excited when your son made hundreds of thousands of dollars, Lucas grumbled. As he spoke, he felt Lily's hand sneak over to his side, poised to tickle him. He shot her a pleading look, and when that didn't work, he gave her a mock-threatening glare. That seemed to do the trick. You just don't get it, Emily said triumphantly. I can't exactly go around bragging about how much money you're making, but this is different. When a video comes out, I can send it to all your aunts and uncles. Just as Lucas was about to reply, Lily's hand struck, and the tickling sent him rolling across the bed. What are you laughing at? Emily asked, confused. I'm just happy I'll finally have something to show off, Lucas said, wrestling to grab Lily's hand. When he managed to capture one, she simply used her head to nuzzle his waist. He blocked her head, and her hand escaped his grasp again. Finally, he had to put the phone down and use both hands to subdue the giggling girl, the sound of their scuffle rustling through the speaker. He couldn't believe it. She didn't learn any of his good qualities, but she'd mastered the art of petty revenge. As if on cue, his mom's questions continued. I'm not working today. Maybe I'll stop by your place later. Lucas forced himself to sound calm. I've sent you videos of the place. What's there to see? What? A mother can't come see where her son lives. Emily joked. It's not like you're hiding someone in there, are you? Whatever. Come if you want. Lucas decided to call her bluff. His mom was famous for her 3-minute attention span. If you agreed with her, she'd probably lose interest. If you argued, she'd get suspicious and might actually show up. Lily, sitting beside him, typed a message on her phone and held it up for him to see. Are you a pig? Nod your head, and I'll let you go. Lucas grit his teeth and grabbed her wrist. Mom, I gotta go, my phone's about to die. He hung up and tossed the phone aside. He refused to be outmaneuvered by this goofball. Lily clearly hadn't expected this. She stared at him, wide-eyed, then lowered her head. I was wrong, she said sincerely. Lucas gave her a perfectly innocent smile. After a bit more roughhousing, Lucas took charge of making breakfast and left the room. Lily sat on the edge of the bed, pulling at the collar of her shirt to hide the hickey near her collarbone. She tidied her messy hair while looking at the messages on her phone. Aaron, spill. What happened last night? Lily, nothing happened. Aaron, Lily, you've changed. You never used to lie to me. Lily, I'm really not lying. Aaron, that's it. The organization is very disappointed in you. Aaron sent a series of shocked face emojis, as if she couldn't believe it. Lily, what else could have happened? She was a bit confused. It seemed what she considered an ideal pace for their relationship was, to others, a snail's crawl. Aaron's next message came through. Well, it's not a big deal. I was just living vicariously, and I'm a little disappointed the drama I imagined didn't happen. Speaking of which, one of my roommates did everything with her boyfriend 2 weeks after they got together. Lily pulled her collar aside again, glancing at the red mark near her collarbone in a small mirror. She quickly covered it back up. That was as far as things had gone between them. Anything more? She wasn't ready for that yet. Lily, so, am I not normal? Aaron, it's not that you're not normal. It's just that when the wrong thing becomes mainstream, the right thing starts to feel wrong. I'm mostly kidding, you goofball. Don't go having an existential crisis over it. I'm just here for the drama. LOL. What are you doing? A little while later, Lucas came over and saw her staring at her phone. He already knew the answer. It was either Aaron or Emma, no one else. Emma was supposed to be studying for finals, but she was still surgically attached to her phone, so it was probably Aaron. Feeling her free hand being taken, Lily gently squeezed back. Chatting with Aaron? I bet she's not telling you anything wholesome. Lucas joked. Lily hummed in embarrassed agreement. Lucas didn't even need to see the screen to guess what the social butterfly had said. It was definitely a play-by-play interrogation of the previous night. You know what they say? You are who you hang out with. Be careful you don't get corrupted by her. Lily tilted her head. So Aaron is corrupting? No, she just has a dirty mind. Lucas ran his thumb over the back of her hand. The calluses on your hands are getting better. Lily nodded and looked up at him. Does it make it more comfortable for your shenanigans? It's not shenanigans when it's between a boyfriend and girlfriend, Lucas said, his face a perfect mask of innocence as he continued to knead her soft hand. It was incredibly stress-relieving. It's called deepening the relationship. He smiled. But congratulations on learning how to joke around, even if it's at my expense. He was always noticing how much Lily had changed. She was still gentle and a bit shy, but with him, she had become more playful. It was only natural. She was still a 19-year-old girl, after all. Her true, lively personality had just been suppressed for too long. He had changed, too. Lily's actions had made him more confident, more certain of his feelings for her. Looking back, he should have known she liked him from the very beginning, but he had been too insecure to believe it, right up until the moment he confessed. I wasn't joking, Lily said seriously, pulling Lucas from his thoughts. I really did want my hands to be softer, so it would be more comfortable for you when you hold them. Before him, she never would have wasted time or money on something like hand cream. Lucas, he took a few deep, silent breaths. Maybe you should just marry her right now. He couldn't take it anymore. A marriage license was just a piece of paper. He had to trick her into being his wife, immediately. Lily looked at his strange expression, concerned. Are you not feeling well? Lucas stood up and walked to the door, clearing his throat loudly. It's nothing. Let's get some breakfast. After they ate, a huge pile of things Lucas had ordered online arrived. Lily started helping him unpack and set up the apartment. Once your basic needs are met, you start buying things to increase your happiness. Humans are creatures of comfort, after all. Even though it was just a rental, Lucas was enthusiastic about fixing it up. He had no plans to move until they bought a house together. The 2-bedroom apartment wasn't huge, but with a few personal touches, it started to feel like a home. He'd even bought plants, though he wasn't sure he could keep them alive. The most prominent new addition was a massive beanbag chair in the living room, big enough for 2 people to cuddle up on and watch movies. There was no need to go to a theater anymore. By the time they were mostly done, it was almost noon. Lucas collapsed into the plush chair, sinking deep into its cushions. He opened his arms toward Lily, who was arranging flower pots on a balcony. Come here. Lily walked over to him, then turned her face away, biting her lip. With a deep breath, she closed her eyes and fell into his embrace. Lucas held her tight, looking at the freshly cleaned floor. It really did feel like home, even if they still hadn't successfully slept in the same room. Your mom isn't really going to show up, is she? Lily propped herself up, her eyes wide with anxiety. It's possible, Lucas said honestly. You know what my mom is like. To put it nicely, she's on your wavelength. To put it bluntly, he trailed off. The blunt version was probably a bad idea. Then what do we do? Lily couldn't understand why he was so calm. If they were caught, there would be no explaining their way out of it. We haven't done anything. Why are you so guilty? This is nothing. Lucas blinked at her, the picture of shocked innocence. What did we do? Ms. Thompson, your mind is in the gutter. If you've done nothing wrong, you've got nothing to hide. If my mom wants to come, let her. What's there to be afraid of? Lily pouted and ignored him. He was probably hoping they'd be misunderstood. Then he could use it as an excuse to push for her to move in with him. He didn't care about his reputation. He'd probably welcome the misunderstanding and the subsequent scolding. Lily suddenly realized she was getting smarter. She could see right through his schemes now. When you get burned enough times by the same person, you start to learn. Her brain had analyzed the situation, deconstructing all his plots and ploys. But her body, acting of its own accord, snuggled deeper into his embrace, greedily soaking up the feeling of security. And her mouth, also not under her control, whispered, "You have a point." The end of the month arrived in a blur. On the morning of Lucas's big speech, the Seattle air still clung to the humid ghost of summer. Everyone said late September was the tail end of the season, that the days of being baked alive by the sun were over. But the crisp autumn air hadn't truly arrived. It was more like it was on backorder. You wouldn't feel a real chill until late October. Still, the mornings were cool enough. Inside the studio, with the AC off, Lucas sat slumped in his chair, looking utterly defeated as he crammed his speech into his brain. Suddenly, the office door flew open with a bang. "What is wrong with you?" Lucas snapped, his head jerking up. He frowned when he saw it was Erin. She was so wound up, she'd nearly given him a heart attack. Right, it was her first day back after her long weekend off for that emergency appendectomy. He supposed a little manic energy was understandable. Erin slapped her phone down on his desk, her knuckles rapping the surface twice. Look at this." Lucas straightened up and leaned over the screen. It was a digital painting done in a thick, painterly style. The image depicted a scene from the anime A Silent Voice. The moment the main character, Shoko Nishimiya, grabs the back of a bicycle to confess her feelings. The anatomy was a little off, but the background, a street bathed in the warm glow of sunset, made the characters pop with emotion. It felt like the feeling was radiating right out of the image. You could find a million illustrations online that were technically perfect or overtly provocative, but it was rare to find one that could make you feel something so instantly. "It's good," Lucas said, sinking back into his chair with a practiced air of nonchalance. Lily drew it. That got his attention. Lucas shot forward again, a wide grin spreading across his face. The closer he looked, the more he loved it, his face nearly pressed against the screen. "This is incredible," he said, his voice rising with excitement. "See? What did I tell you? My girlfriend is a genius." Erin rolled her eyes. A minute ago, he'd acted like he couldn't care less. Lily's sense of atmosphere is on another level. She really needs proper training. If she got some guidance from a real pro, a senior concept artist. "Aren't you a pro?" Lucas countered. As much as he hated to admit it, Erin's artistic talent was undeniable, and she'd only gotten better since joining Arcade Studios. She might not be at the level of an art director at a major studio yet, but she ran their art department with ease. "Her ceiling is way higher than mine," Erin said, beaming as if she'd discovered her own hidden talent. "Art isn't something you just master overnight. You're a layman, so you might not see the nuances, but Lily's rate of improvement is terrifying. Of course, she started from a ridiculously high baseline. But wait, doesn't she watch you draw all the time? How are you just noticing this now?" Lucas asked, confused. Erin sighed, her gaze fixed on the illustration in her phone's gallery. "Before you came along, no, before her mom's surgery, she wouldn't touch a pencil. Wouldn't even look at art supplies, no matter how much I pushed. Of course I never saw it. Back then, her only form of entertainment was sleeping." She shuddered, not wanting to imagine what kind of life the sweet girl would be living if Lucas hadn't shown up. Erin knew her own limits. There was only so much she could do. And eventually, she would graduate and go back home. Lucas nodded slowly, letting the heavy silence hang for a moment before changing the subject. "By the way, you need to stop teaching her weird things. I asked her if she liked cats the other day, and she just said, 'I like you.'" Erin stared at him, her face a mask of stone. "Are you just here to rub your perfect relationship in my face?" "So that wasn't you?" Lucas was floored. Was it possible that sweet, shy Lily was running circles around him all on her own? If that got out, his reputation would be ruined. "Of course not." Erin shot back. "She says one sweet thing, and you completely short-circuit. Has it ever occurred to you that maybe your defenses are just really, really low?" "Not possible." "Ugh, forget it. You wouldn't understand. She dislikes me that much," Lucas said with a world-weary sigh, practically tattooing the words "Lily likes me more" on his forehead. Erin bit her lip, her canine teeth digging in. She was annoyed, but she had no comeback. With a huff, she stormed out, slamming the door behind her. Another day, another meal ruined by her insufferable boss. Lucas stared at the closed door, a triumphant smirk stretching from ear to ear. He'd not only stolen Erin's best and only friend to be his girlfriend, but he'd also tricked Erin into working for him so he could exploit her talent. He raised an eyebrow. Was he the bad guy here? By 9 o'clock, Lucas was backstage at the Grand Hall. The university was clearly taking this speech seriously. They'd booked the same massive auditorium used for homecoming week. A whole crew from Arcade Studios had come to cheer him on, creating a boisterous, chaotic cluster in the wings. He'd heard a lot of important people would be in attendance, but the bulk of the audience would be freshmen. He remembered feeling a pang of jealousy when he saw Aaron front and center in the university's recruitment video. He never thought he'd get his own chance to be featured on the school's website so soon. Who was he to turn down a moment in the sun? There are so many people out there, Lily said, her voice barely a whisper. She just peeked out into the hall and now stood before him, looking timid. And there are people with cameras everywhere. She was still deeply uncomfortable in large crowds. If she were the one giving the speech, he knew she'd probably get so nervous she'd try to dig a hole in the stage and crawl into it. Lucas set his notes aside and, ignoring the people milling around them, took her hand. I heard a TV crew is here. Lily's mouth fell open in a small, perfect O of surprise. Seeing her reaction only fueled his ego. Your boyfriend's a pretty big deal, huh? Feel a sudden urge to marry me on the spot. In your dreams, she mumbled with a playful glare. A few seconds later, her expression softened into one of concern. You're not nervous, are you? She asked quietly. Lucas had a laugh. The sweet girl didn't seem to realize she was far more nervous than he was. Her palm was already slick with sweat. The thought that she was this worked up on his behalf sent a wave of warmth through him. No, he started to say, then quickly swallowed his words. He adopted a somber expression. I'm terrified. I think I'm going to die. Her grip on his hand tightened, and she used her free hand to gently stroke the back of his. Try taking some deep breaths. Doesn't work, Lucas said, his face a mask of solemnity. He snuck a glance at his reflection in a nearby makeup mirror, increasingly impressed with his own acting skills. He'd clearly missed his calling. Why start a company when Hollywood was waiting? Do you want some water? Lily asked, her worry escalating. Her autumn-clear eyes, shimmering with concern, blinked up at him. Useless, he said, shaking his head slowly. He locked his gaze with hers, his expression grave. But I know one thing that might help. Will you help me? Lily nodded vigorously. Deeply moved, Lucas typed a short phrase on his phone and held it up for her to see. You can do this, honey. There are too many people around, he whispered conspiratorially. Just lean in close and say in my ear. When she read the words, a blush crept from her cheeks all the way to the tips of her ears. She shot him a mortified, wounded look. You're not nervous at all, are you? Look, my hands are shaking, Lucas, the Oscar winner, said, holding his hand out for her inspection. We're not even married, she mumbled, though she seemed to believe him a little. He pouted. A minute ago, I asked if you wanted to marry me, and you said I was dreaming. Can a guy live vicariously for a second? It's the thought that counts, right? He leaned in closer. You're the only one who can help me now. Just imagine how embarrassing it will be for your boyfriend to bomb this in front of all those people. He shuddered dramatically. I don't think I could live with the shame. Okay. The mere thought of it made Lily want to flee the planet. She took a deep breath, leaned toward him, and brought her lips to his ear. On, P6I, she whispered. Her breath, warm and quick with nerves, tickled his skin, making his own breathing catch. You can do this. Lucas swallowed hard, his eyes now blazing with a newfound fire, as if he'd just been mainlining caffeine. Oh, I can definitely do this. Just then, the door creaked open after a sharp knock. Leo Jenkins stuck his head in. Lucas, one of the deans wants to see you. I think his name is Carr. Lucas stood up and walked toward the door. That's my dad. Leo's jaw nearly hit the floor. Ignoring him, Lucas walked calmly down the hallway. After a moment of stunned silence, Leo scurried to catch up, remembering he had something else to report. Lucas, the demo for the new game is ready, Leo said, then immediately looked sheepish. It's just, none of us have any experience making an action game after working on the Car Battler. Even if we kill ourselves working on it until the end of next month, we'll probably only have a half-finished prototype. Truthfully, half-finished was being generous. Building a new game from scratch in a couple of months, while also maintaining update for their first one, was a monumental task. They were both roguelikes, but a card game and a 2D side-scrolling action game were entirely different beasts, with zero overlap in development. He was braced for a lecture. To his surprise, Lucas just nodded. That's fine. Half-finished is all we need. Don't pour too much energy into this one. It's just a stepping stone. In your spare time, I want you to start studying how those big anime-style mobile games are made. What do you mean? Leo asked, his brain struggling to keep up. Don't be dense. Lucas paused, leaning against the hallway wall and gesturing toward the camera crews in the auditorium. The university isn't the only one getting free publicity today. This is a two-way street. Our new game is going to ride this wave of exposure. Understanding dawned on Leo's face. So, you're going to use this buzz to make a clean break from the platform? Lucas held up 3 fingers, his expression pained. Right now, We only get to keep 30% of our revenue. That means for every $1 million we make on that platform, we're handing over 700,000 to them. If we want to make it big, we have to jump ship. That makes sense. Leo craned his neck to look out at the bustling hall. Even though he wasn't the one giving the speech, he felt a strange sense of shared pride. The impulsive kid who'd shown up for an interview with Lucas never would have imagined they'd get this far. As he was lost in thought, Lucas spoke again. Hey, I have another job for you. What is it? Go talk to the university staff and the student union. I want you to get Bianca Cooper replaced as the host for the Q&A. Lucas frowned, looking at a message on his phone from the event organizer. I don't like her. Plus, I want to take this opportunity to mention I have a girlfriend, and she's a bit of a drama queen. Because the interview portion was short, the questions had been sent to Lucas in advance, so there had been no formal rehearsal. He'd only just been told who the host was. Huh? Me? I've never done anything like that, Leo whispered. You can learn. It wouldn't be appropriate for me to do it directly. If you go, they'll know it's my request, but no one will lose face. It's perfect. Leo's back straightened. He nodded firmly. Right. I can learn. After Leo scurried off, Lucas walked into the auditorium to find his father. The faculty were all seated near the front, so it didn't take long to spot him. He was surprised, however, to see William Montgomery sitting right next to him. Dad, Mr. Montgomery, Lucas said quietly as he approached. The two men nodded in greeting and waited for him to sit before resuming their conversation. Look at the stuff these kids have now. You can get a workout just playing a video game at home, Robert Carter said, holding up a video on his phone. I think it's called a Ring Fit. William Montgomery glanced down at his own slightly rounded belly. Let me borrow yours sometime. I should probably try to keep up with the times. I never bought one. A morning jog is good enough for me. Is it because your wife won't let you buy it? Of course not. Lucas rolled his eyes. The two old-timers had a combined age of over 80, but when they got together, they were like a couple of teenagers. Mr. Montgomery, what are you doing here? He asked a little awkwardly. He hadn't had the nerve to call William since Scarlett left. News of their past relationship had made the round between their families, but Robert and Emily had pretended not to know, treating Lily as their future daughter-in-law from the start, which had eased his guilt considerably. Am I not allowed to come? William asked with a chuckle. I've watched you grow up from a kid running around in diapers to the man you are today. Isn't it normal for me to come see you? It's just. You said you were going to treat me to dinner months ago, and then I never heard from you. I thought you were afraid I'd hold you to it. Hey, you little brat. Robert, tell his mother to give him a spanking when you get home, William said, then stood up. I'm going to use the restroom. As they were talking, the rest of the Allcade crew trickled in from backstage. Lily gave Lucas a shy look before following Aaron to a section reserved for students. Lucas watched her go, then turned back and clapped his father on the shoulder. Dad, there's your daughter-in-law. See her? You could search this entire university and not find a girl more beautiful than her. Lily stood out effortlessly. Even just walking down the aisle between the rows of seats, she drew countless gazes. Robert Carter cleared his throat. Don't talk nonsense. You're always so full of it. His son was all talk, but he hadn't put a ring on it yet. Oh, right. They probably weren't old enough. Maybe he was just getting old. But he found himself envying his colleagues who were already bouncing grandchildren on their knees. Lucas bristled. You want Lily to be someone else's daughter-in-law? I didn't say that. After a moment, Robert changed the subject. Where's that partner of yours? Lucas scanned the audience again. Haven't seen him. On the other side of the auditorium, Jason Miller sat down stiffly next to a thin, dark-skinned middle-aged man. The man was sitting in the back rows, watching the late-arriving students stream in. He didn't say a word as Jason sat. Jason stared pointedly in the other direction. What are you doing here? It's the same either way. The two of them sat stone-faced, trading terse, one-sided remarks. The air between them was cold and awkward. The man nodded, pulled a lighter from his pocket, and lit a cigarette. Jason hesitated, his hand in his own pocket, but didn't make a move to light one himself. He'd guessed his dad was here for him the moment he found out about the speech, but he still felt awkward. It was strange. He could fetch his mom tea and snacks without a second thought, but with his dad, everything was painfully stilted. An uncomfortable silence fell between them, punctuated only by the soft exhale of smoke. You should smoke less, Jason said suddenly after a while. Mom complains about it every time she calls. They both continued to stare into the distance, never once making eye contact, even as they spoke. The man grunted. His eyes caught sight of William Montgomery, and he stood up. Come home for dinner when you have time. Don't make your mother worry. With that, he walked away, not bothering to greet anyone on his way out. Both of them used the same indirect method to hide what they really wanted to say. The back row fell completely silent. Jason sat alone, fiddling with the lighter in his hand, spinning it between his fingers. A small, involuntary smile touched his lips. A few minutes later, Jason found Lucas near the front and pulled him aside. "My dad was here," he said, a cigarette dangling from his lips. Lucas looked around again. "That's great. Where is he? I'll go say hi." He left when he saw Scarlett's dad. Probably didn't want you to think he was trying to suck up to him. The cigarette bobbed as Jason spoke. He goes to all that trouble to avoid suspicion, but still says he's just looking around. A strange feeling washed over him, and he started to quietly reflect on his relationship with his father. Lucas was about to say, "Then why are you telling me?" when Jason sighed. "I don't know. Maybe it's because things are going well for me now, but I've realized I don't hate him as much anymore." He remembered the screaming matches after his dad changed his college major on his application, the dramatic running away from home. He'd spent his first year of college in a self-destructive spiral of rebellion, skipping classes, partying, hooking up with girls whose names he couldn't remember the next day. It wasn't until he met Vanessa that he started to clean up his act. Now that he thought about it, he'd shed most of his bad habits while trying to win her over. He wondered if she'd done it on purpose. Looking back now, it all felt like a distant haze. The memories were still sharp, but the intense emotions tied to them had faded. It was like watching a movie of someone else's life, leaving him completely detached. It seemed time really did heal all wounds. Seeing the flicker of peace on Jason's face, Lucas let out a long breath. "I've always thought that growing up is just a long process of making peace with your parents. They get older, we get more mature, and eventually, we meet somewhere in the middle." Jason raised an eyebrow. "What makes you so philosophical? Don't you have a perfect relationship with your parents?" He couldn't imagine Lucas ever having family drama. "Not entirely. I never understood why they were so hands-off with me. They raised me completely free range, and when I was a kid, I honestly wondered if I was adopted. I felt neglected, so I even ran away from home once. It wasn't until I saw what you were going through that I started to understand them. My parents' philosophy was simple. They didn't know how to parent, so they just hoped I'd be happy." "Sounds pretty great to me," Jason said, a hint of envy in his voice. He'd never experienced that, so all he could see was the freedom, the one thing he'd craved his entire life. He smirked. It was funny, really. The things he and Lucas had lacked most as kids were the very things they were chasing now. He was desperately pursuing freedom, while Lucas just wanted to find stability in the people around him. "Every lesson I've ever learned, I had to learn the hard way," Lucas said seriously. "Like what?" "Like how to be in a relationship," Lucas said with a small smile. Then, guided by a staff member, he walked toward the stage. In the audience, Lily had her phone's camera open, ready to capture the moment her boyfriend walked on stage. Her free hand was clenched into a tight fist, as if afraid she'd miss something. Their influence on each other had been subtle but profound. She, too, had started to cherish and document every memorable moment. "Don't you have your part-time job today?" Aaron asked from the seat next to her. Lily wasn't working herself to the bone like she used to, but she was still busier than Aaron on most days. Some habits died hard. "I took the day off," Lily said, her eyes fixed on the stage, completely still. "My boyfriend is obviously more important." The fact that she would take a day off for anything was astounding. Aaron clicked her tongue, a fresh wave of irritation washing over her. "Can you two go 5 minutes without being disgustingly cute? Is torturing me part of your foreplay or something?" She had never wanted to be in a relationship more than she did right now. It was painful. The next second, her eyes widened. "Look, your boyfriend's on stage." The gaming industry was a strange place. When a game got popular, fans often fell in love with the creators who stepped into the spotlight, especially when that creator was handsome and a fellow student. After the dean finished his opening remarks, the moment Lucas stepped on stage, the crew from Arcade Studios started whooping and cheering, and the rest of the auditorium erupted in a wave of applause. It almost startled him. He hadn't expected that at all. Lily didn't respond. Her gaze locked on Lucas, her eyes filled with adoration. Lucas walked to the center of the stage. After a brief bow, he stood tall and scanned the audience, looking for the spot where he knew she'd be. Across the vast distance of the hall, their eyes seemed to meet for a split second. She didn't know how, but she just knew he was looking for her. And he was. Once he found her, Lucas, completely unconcerned with how childish it might look, raised a hand and gave her a wave. Lily gasped, a warmth spreading through her chest. Her eyes misted over as she whispered, "You've got this." She knew he couldn't possibly hear her, but any lingering nervousness Lucas had felt vanished completely. He couldn't make a fool of himself in front of his girlfriend. He hadn't brought his notes on stage with him. He delivered his speech smoothly from memory, his eyes never leaving the spot where Lily sat, even though he couldn't make out her expression. And hers, of course, never left him. For all the freshmen in the audience, I know many of you might be feeling as lost as I was when I first got here. And that's okay. This is just the beginning. For me, and for you. Lucas gave a final bow, and the hall erupted in applause, punctuated by the cheers of several girls. He didn't leave the stage. According to the schedule, it was time for the Q&A. He knew Leo would have arranged for Bianca Cooper to be replaced. What he didn't expect was for Leo to walk on stage himself. Lucas's eyebrow twitched. This was ridiculous. Leo grinned foolishly, then lifted the microphone to his lips. Lucas, could you share some of your experiences with your fellow students? Of course, Lucas replied, smiling. He already knew the questions, so he felt no pressure. The two of them bantered back and forth, keeping the tone light and easy, making the typically stuffy questions and answers feel surprisingly fun. How did you overcome setbacks when you encountered them? During the toughest times, my professors and classmates encouraged me and gave me the confidence and courage to overcome any difficulty. The university administration also stepped up without hesitation to provide a great deal of support. Like when my company was about to go bankrupt and the university's grant finally came through, he added silently. When he thought all the questions were done and he was trying to figure out how to work in his announcement, Leo asked one more. You always seem so determined. Why is that? Lucas smiled and turned his head, his gaze finding Lily in the crowd. Actually, I wasn't always this confident. I have to thank my girlfriend, Lily Thompson. For a moment, the entire hall fell silent. Then, a wave of whispers and murmurs rippled through the crowd, quickly escalating into a boisterous uproar from the more excitable students. Sitting in the audience, Lily was completely frozen, her mouth slightly agape, her eyes blinking in disbelief. She couldn't process what was happening. She knew Lucas had promised to solve the problem of guys constantly asking for her number, but she never imagined he would go with a nuclear option. Still, as a girl, she couldn't deny the romance of the gesture. Beyond the shock, a deep sense of warmth and gratitude washed over her. With this one act, Lucas had publicly declared his commitment. It wasn't just for the school to see. The entire interview would be posted online, and from now on, this would be a part of his public identity. He was, once again, proving his devotion with his actions. The power of love? Leo asked, playing his part perfectly. Lucas nodded. You could say that. When I was at my lowest, she was the one who told me she'd always be by my side. That's what kept me going. So, it sounds like you and your girlfriend are very close. Of course. She's far more important than my life or my career. Damn, Lily, your boyfriend is on another level. Aaron couldn't help but mutter. It was a moment of clarity for her. If she was going to be force-fed this constant stream of public affection, why not just sit back and enjoy the show? It was better than television, and no actress could hold a candle to Lily's beauty. Lily was too flustered to speak, managing only to press her lips together. Why aren't you saying anything? Aaron nudged her friend's shoulder. Don't tell me you're so moved you want to marry him right this second. At that, Lily's already warm cheeks turned a shade of crimson. She ducked her head, her hands twisting together in her lap as strands of hair fell to frame her face. I wanted it for a long time, she whispered, mortified. Aaron's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. After a few seconds, she finally managed to shout, You're hopeless. Over in the faculty section, Robert Carter and William Montgomery were both smiling, a look of surprise on their faces. If Lucas had pulled a stunt like this in high school, Robert would have been on the phone with his wife in a second, reporting the situation before they both ended up in the doghouse. Now, he just found it amusing. My son's all grown up. He knows how to steal another family's prize cabbage. Your son's got guts, William Montgomery remarked with a click of his tongue. Young people were certainly creative these days. It was a shame, though, that he wasn't his son-in-law. Robert grinned, raised his phone to snap a picture of his son, and chuckled. He's all right. I guess he inherited about a tenth of my charm. Lucas is just like you when you were young, William said, but then a thought seemed to strike him, and the smile faded from his face. He sighed internally. Whether it's running a family or raising kids, I could never compare to you. He never would have imagined that the ordinary, boring days he once took for granted would now be something he could only experience in his dreams. When he had a happy family, he craved money and status. Now that he had everything, he craved a family. In the end, it was all for nothing. Robert's smile faded too. He posted the photo of Lucas to his Facebook timeline and said in a low voice, I told you back then, you have to get your priorities straight. I know, but not everyone can walk away at the top of their game like you did. You should remind Lucas of that when you get the chance. Don't worry, Robert said. He knows. When Lucas came off stage, he tried to sneak over to the student section, but he was intercepted by university staff. With a sigh, he sent Lily a text telling her to meet him backstage. Then he sat down to wait, saying nothing. "Lucas, what are you thinking about?" Leo asked, walking over curiously. Lucas blinked. "Oh, just planning the company's next steps." "You're amazing," Leo said with genuine admiration, then headed for the exit. He couldn't just leave after asking the arts department for a favor. He was going to buy them all bubble tea. It was a good way to network. You never knew when you might need those connections again. After Leo left, Lucas let out a deep sigh. That girl was getting harder and harder to fool. How was he supposed to trick her into napping with him? They'd been living together, at least during the day, for a month, but a firm line was still drawn between them. Other than the time she had a fever and he'd held her, there had been almost no progress. Speak of the devil. Just as he was pondering this, Lily appeared in front of him. She looked a little shy, her face slightly averted, and she didn't speak for a long moment. "So now, you?" They both started to speak at the same time. Lucas smiled faintly. "You first." Lily pulled a thermos from her bag. "You were talking for so long. Are you thirsty?" she asked softly. "Actually," Lucas started to reach for it, but she twisted the cap off, took a small sip herself, and then smiled in relief. "It's still warm." He stared at her, momentarily forgetting to take the thermos. Is this an angel sent to save me? The next moment, the quiet backstage area was pierced by a girl's mortified shriek. "Why did you deliberately drink from the exact spot where my lips were?" The second the words were out, Lily regretted them. She glanced timidly at the few people who had turned to look, then quickly sat down next to Lucas, burying her face in his shoulder like an ostrich. "Just let me die. I want to die right now." "I didn't. I was just fidgeting," and spun the thermos around. Lucas whispered in her ear. "Does your boyfriend seem like that kind of creep to you? Intentionally drinking from the same spot she just did? A gentleman like himself would never do such a thing. Unless it was by accident. You're still talking." Lily was both embarrassed and annoyed. If there weren't other students around, she would have bitten him. Lucas grinned mischievously. Then his expression turned serious. "Now, if anyone asks for your number, you could just tell them I'm your boyfriend." A campus startup celebrity didn't have any real power, but for students who hadn't yet entered the professional world, it carried a certain weight. He could get a meeting with any dean he wanted, which was more than a normal student could say. Lily gently bumped her forehead against his shoulder. "I can't believe you'd say something like that during a speech. Aren't you going to get in trouble with the school?" "What's there to get in trouble for?" Lucas took her hand and gave it a gentle squeeze. "And even if I did, to make my girlfriend happy, it would be worth it. I would have been happy even if you didn't say anything." Lucas snorted. "Tell that to the little jealous girl who gets upset over everything." "I do not," she mumbled, but she couldn't stop the corners of her hidden lips from turning up. The truth was, she had always felt deeply insecure. Luckily, her boyfriend seemed to see right through her. The next day, the last of September, Lucas was sprawled on the couch after lunch, scrolling through his phone and giggling to himself. He'd never imagined he'd be a trending topic. He wondered what all the people complimenting his looks would think if they saw him laughing like a deranged hyena. He felt a small piece of dry skin on his lip. He licked it to pinpoint its location, then bit down, tearing it off cleanly. Problem solved. As autumn approached, people who didn't drink enough water often got chapped lips. Lucas was one of them, a fact that hadn't escaped Lily's notice. "I brought you some lip balm," she said suddenly, putting down the stylus she was drawing with. Now that Sophia was recovering well, Lily spent most of her days at the rental after her classes, only going home at night. They had a mutual, unspoken agreement that as long as they didn't sleep in the same bed, it didn't count as living together. They were still good kids. She walked over to the coffee table and started rummaging through her bag. "Did you just buy it?" Lucas asked. Lily looked up, surprised. Her wide-eyed, startled expression was ridiculously cute. "How did you know?" "Because you'd never buy something like that for yourself," he said with a sigh. "Busted." Lily bit her lip, embarrassed. She tore open the plastic packaging, twisted off the cap, and handed the tube to him. Lucas, who had been happily scrolling, wrinkled his nose as a floral scent wafted toward him. "You can keep it. I don't like this stuff," he said, leaning back. The smell was off-putting. Lily looked troubled. "But you never drink water." She found that her boyfriend could be just as childish as she was sometimes and needed to be coaxed. "Who says I don't drink water? Don't sodas and watermelon have water in them?" he retorted. Unfazed, Lily sat down next to him and, in a soothing voice like she was talking to a child, said, "Just once a day, okay?" She looped her arm through his. "Please." "Nope." Lucas licked his lips. "See? Not dry anymore." He hated the stuff, mainly because his mom used to hold his head in a vice grip and slather it on him when he was a kid. He still had a bit of a rebellious streak about it. Once every 2 days, Lily lowered her offer. If only Lucas were as easy to persuade as she was, this would be so much simpler. Still no. What if? What if I give you a little something in return? Lily ducked her head, her voice barely a whisper. She could feel her earlobes and cheeks burning. She was practically selling her body just to get him to use some lip balm. Anyone watching would think she was the one begging for a favor. That piqued his interest. He turned to look at her. What kind of something? I'll kiss you a few more times later. Lucas raised an eyebrow. That's the best you can do. Annoyed, Lily said nothing. Instead, she took his hand and firmly placed it on her thigh. She was wearing her summer pajamas, and, sitting on the couch, a section of her smooth skin was exposed. Is this okay? She stammered, her voice trembling. She couldn't even look at him. She had regretted buying matching pajamas with him countless times. She'd bet anything that when he convinced her to buy them, he was already planning for a moment just like this. Feeling the silky skin beneath his palm, Lucas couldn't suppress a grin. His right hand started to wander, a mischievous explorer on new territory. Down was permitted, up, unfortunately, was not. But this was more than enough. Are you done yet? Lily's voice quivered. With her leg pinned, she couldn't escape. She could only lean weakly against his shoulder. Lucas simply pulled her slender legs onto his own lap. Not even close. I could play with these legs for a year. He'd always thought she had beautifully shaped legs, but touching them was a whole other level of amazing. He remembered watching an anime once and hearing a character say a line about a girl's legs being good for a year of play. He thought it was an exaggeration. Now, he completely understood. A year was conservative. He could admire her legs for an eternity. The lip balm. Lily mumbled, still remembering her mission. She held up the tube, her face flushed. Busy, Lucas said, not even looking at it. Later, she bit her lip, feeling wronged. All he ever did was bully her. Just as Lucas was wondering why she had gone silent, he saw her applying the balm to her own lips. He thought it was strange, but before he could say anything, she wrapped her arms around his neck and pressed her lips to his. A few seconds later, she pulled back, her eyes meeting his stunned gaze. If I put it on for you like this, once a day, is that okay? She asked softly, averting her eyes. Lucas could feel the slick balm on his own lips. His eyes were fixed on hers, soft and glistening. His heart hammered in his chest. He swallowed hard. As many times as you want. He suddenly realized he was being thoroughly and completely outplayed by this girl. Fine, so be it. I'm happy right where I am. A moment later, he spoke again. One more time. As the saying goes, it's easier to invite a god in than to send one away. Lily discovered that once she gave Lucas an inch, he wouldn't try to take a mile, but he would defend that inch to the death. She had no choice but to resign herself to her fate, leaning against him and watching art tutorials on her phone while he stroked her leg. Seriously, she thought, how is this addictive? At this rate, she'd never dare to wear those thigh-high socks for him. He'd probably devour her whole. Lucas rested her legs on his lap, placed his laptop on top of her knees, and got back to work, a perfect combination of productivity and relaxation. He was in heaven. Are you working over the fall break? He asked, looking at his calendar. Lying on the couch, Lily tilted her head back to think. A few days, yeah. I see your mom is doing better on her own. I was hoping to take you on a trip, he said, disappointed. He'd spent enough time watching his parents go on their romantic getaways. Now that he had a girlfriend, it was his turn to show off. They should travel while they were young, not wait until they had kids like his parents did. And they couldn't just dump the kids at home, right? That wouldn't be right. He was getting a little ahead of himself. He snapped out of his thoughts to find Lily staring at him with a wary expression. You'd tell me you couldn't book a room with 2 beds, she said seriously, and then you'd trick me into sleeping with you. Did Aaron teach you that one too? Lucas asked, groaning. He cursed Aaron internally. Seriously, what is her problem? I only have a few tricks on my sleeve, and she's spoiling all of them. No wonder she's single. Lily shook her head. She didn't teach me. I just figured it out after being tricked by you so many times. Ahem. Lucas struggled to keep his face straight. Don't be ridiculous. I'm not that kind of guy. She poked his stomach with her toes. Could you maybe take your hand off my leg before you say that? Don't move. Behave, Lucas said sternly. Lily was confused at first, but then she sensed a change in the atmosphere and immediately went still. You're becoming more and more shameless, she mumbled, looking away as if she were the one being wronged. I told you before, all guys are like this. I can't help it, Lucas said with a deep sigh, as if he were the real victim. It gets pretty uncomfortable after a while, you know? Hearing this, Lily suddenly felt a wave of embarrassment and tried to pull her legs back, but Lucas held them fast. So you like being in this state of painful pleasure? She asked, a mix of helplessness and pity in her voice. He did say he was uncomfortable, after all. I just like the pleasure part, he said honestly. Lily, How about we become sworn brothers? From now on, Emma can call me Big Bro and you Second Bro. She'll be our third bro. She knew he was mocking her. She gave his stomach another light kick. Lucas let out a hiss of pain and wisely decided to drop the subject. He was quite satisfied with their current level of progress. Plus, he could touch her legs. Lily knew he was just teasing, but she still felt a complicated mix of emotions. I'm going to take a nap. I have a class this afternoon, she said, pulling her legs free. She poured him a glass of water and walked toward her room. Watching her go, Lucas couldn't resist one last jab. Want a nap together? No. Lily disappeared behind the door, but poked her head out one last time. Remember to drink the water. It'll help with your lips. Okay. Lily closed the door and leaned her back against it, letting out a long sigh. She pressed her hands to her warm cheeks, frustrated with herself. Lucas's words were like a devil's whisper, constantly tempting her. She liked him so much. How could she not want to sleep in his arms? The memory of her fever, when her reason had crumbled and she'd clung to him, refusing to let him go, was proof enough. But it was too dangerous. If he ever seriously made a move, she knew she wouldn't have the heart to refuse him, no matter how outrageous his request was. What if? What if? No what ifs, she thought, shaking her head to clear it. Lily, you have to hold the line. Even if you can't wait until you're engaged, you have to at least wait until Mom is fully recovered and can take care of herself. She padded over to the bed and flopped onto it face down. A few seconds later, she rolled over and opened her phone's browser to search for some very strange questions. She was unaware of the adage that at 100 degrees, water boils and people die. She still trusted the internet for knowledge. The results confirmed what Erin had once told her during one of her crude jokes. Under normal circumstances, there was no such thing as a completely safe method. Out in the living room, Lucas had no idea that his simple joke had sent Lily's imagination into overdrive. He was busy working. Half an hour later, he stretched and decided to go lie down. Just as he stood up, his phone rang. It was his mother, Emily. He figured she had just finished humble bragging to her friends and was now calling to praise him. Hey, Mom. Emily's gentle voice came through the phone. I'm here at your apartment complex. Which building are you in again? All the sleepiness Lucas had accumulated instantly vanished. He looked around wildly. Lily's t-shirt was still hanging on the balcony. Hello, why aren't you saying anything? Emily asked. Oh, building A. There's no elevator. I'll come down and let you in. He hung up and collapsed onto the couch. One day he's trending for making a game. The next will be trending because his own mother broke his legs for living in sin with a girl. He scanned the room one last time, confirming that there was no way to hide all the evidence of his crime in the time he had. He made a token effort, hiding what he could. A moment later, his mom called again. That's not right. An old lady answered the door in Building A, she said, sounding annoyed. Huh? Didn't I say Building B? Lucas asked, his voice a picture of innocence. You said Building A. He chuckled. My mistake. I'm on my way down to get you. He had, of course, given her the wrong building on purpose. Unfortunately, the extra time only served to make him realize how completely screwed he was. Time to face the music. A few minutes later, Emily Carter arrived at the scene of the crime. The first thing she did upon entering was scan the apartment, her focus entirely on its cleanliness. The reality was a far cry from what she'd imagined. Lucas was a relatively clean person, but this place was immaculate. Everything was neat and tidy. Too tidy. Her son was this diligent? She'd sooner believe Robert if he told her he was an alien. Mom, what's in the bag? Lucas asked, handing her the glass of water Lily had poured for him. Emily placed the bag on the coffee table and sat down. These are from your grandfather's garden. Anyway, do you remember your Aunt Carol? The one who visited us a while back. Lucas thought for a moment and recalled the quiet, awkward boy sitting next to the woman. A college student who still wasn't allowed to use his phone freely. He hoped the kid was doing okay. Yeah, I remember. Well, word got out that you're doing well with your game company, and she came over asking if you could give her son a job. Apparently, the kid couldn't fit in at school and dropped out. Emily took a sip of water. I gave her a vague answer. Your father and I don't know anything about your business, so we're not going to cause trouble for you. Lucas grimaced. I had a feeling she was smothering the life out of him. He's too timid, Emily agreed. I know my parenting style has its flaws, but I think kids need to be a little mischievous. If they're too scared to raise hell at home, how are they ever going to make something of themselves in the real world? Mom, are you serious? Lucas asked, hiding his trembling right hand behind his back. Of course I am. Just as she finished speaking, the door to Lily's bedroom creaked open. A girl with slightly messy hair, dressed in pajamas, walked out. I dreamed I was on the moon, but I was all alone, Lily said in a soft, sleepy voice, rubbing her eyes. She sounded groggy, clearly having just woken up. Then her eyes focused on Lucas and the stunned Emily Carter. She froze solid. The moon sounds nice, she thought. Let's go now. Compared to the completely frozen Lily and Emily, Lucas remained relatively calm. He had intentionally not warned Lily. If they had been prepared and were then discovered, it would have looked much worse to his mother. Having Lily emerge from a room like this was proof that he, the perfect gentleman, hadn't done anything improper. He hadn't committed the heinous act of tricking a girl into sharing his bed. At least, not yet. Mom, you just said it's good for kids to be a little mischievous. You can't take it back now. Lucas prayed silently. After a few seconds of shock, Lily took a step back, lowered her head, and whispered, "Hello, Mrs. Carter." Lucas could see that her first instinct was to pull an ostrich and run back into the room. So, she was only brave with him, huh? In front of anyone else, she was still the same tongue-tied girl. A pang hit his chest. The girl who was too shy to speak to others was the same one who could effortlessly make his head spin. Damn it. Being so thoroughly outmaneuvered by this sweet, awkward girl was just embarrassing. Emily finally snapped out her daze. Her first reaction was to turn and give Lucas a look. It was a calm, level stare, but it sent a shiver down his spine. Then, she turned her gaze back to Lily and smiled warmly. "Lily, you here? Are you and Lucas living together now?" No wonder the place is so clean, she thought. It all makes sense now. And no, we don't sleep in the same room, Lily stammered, so nervous she could barely form a coherent sentence. She doesn't have a dorm, so when she has afternoon classes, I let her come here to nap. Lucas quickly interjected. She still goes home at night. Lily's explanation was way too easy to misinterpret. If he didn't clarify, he wouldn't live to see tomorrow. Only then did Emily seem to relax, nodding. Her troublemaker son was devious as hell, and this sweet girl was so easy to fool. She had been worried for a while that Lucas would pull some stunt, but thank goodness he hadn't presented her with a surprise pregnancy. At her age, her heart couldn't take that kind of shock. They were just napping in the same apartment, not even in the same room. My son is growing up. I can't hit him. Restrain yourself. Seeing his mom's reaction, Lucas felt the tension in his chest finally ease. At least she hadn't broken his legs on the spot. People were always willing to compromise. If he had told Emily directly that he wanted Lily to move in, she would have shown him the true meaning of tough love. But by letting her think they were already living together and then revealing it was just for naps, she was much more likely to accept it. "Come, sit down. I was just thinking about you," Emily said with a gentle smile. Lily shyly sat down next to her, keeping her head down, too embarrassed to speak. She felt like a prize cabbage that had been secretly consorting with someone else's pig. She was consumed with guilt. Just half an hour ago, she had been on this very couch, cuddling and kissing Lucas. The thought made her cheeks burn even hotter. She gripped the hem of her shirt, her toes curling inside her slippers. Lily wasn't the only one feeling awkward. Emily was also uncomfortable. She was starting to think she shouldn't have come. No, wait. Her delinquent son was preying on an innocent young woman. She was here to serve justice. With that thought, she smiled, took Lily's hand, and asked softly, "Has Lucas been treating you well? If he ever makes you unhappy, you just tell me, and I'll take care of him for you." Lily didn't quite understand the implications of the question and remained silent. Lucas, who had been feeling so clever a moment ago, suddenly tensed up. "Say something. You're so good at flirting with me. Why are you shutting down now? If you don't speak up, your boyfriend is a dead man. You're going to be a widow." As if sensing his inner turmoil, Lily finally responded in a daze. "No." Hearing that, Lucas melted into the couch, letting out a breath of pure relief. Lily had certainly changed a lot over the past year, but he couldn't help but feel her evolution was a bit lopsided. Her social skills had maybe crawled from a 30 to a 50, not even a passing grade, but her flirting ability had skyrocketed to a solid 90. Her skill tree was seriously unbalanced. After they all had a moment to calm down and make some small talk, the blush finally faded from Lily's cheeks. "It's good that you come here for lunch, Lily. It's so hot in the summer, and the days are so long. It must be miserable not having a place to rest at the university," Emily said, her voice full of sympathy. She couldn't imagine how the girl had managed before. "That's why I picked a place so close. Your son's pretty smart, huh?" Lucas said, only to be silenced by a glare from his mother. He decided it was best not to press his luck. He was still a suspected kidnapper of innocent maidens. "My office is closed tomorrow, and Emma will be back. Lily, why don't you come over for dinner?" Emily said suddenly. Lucas blinked. "What about me? Aren't you going to ask if I'm coming?" What about Lucas?" Lily asked, her voice trembling. Emily couldn't help but laugh. She had no idea how her son had managed to find such an adorable girlfriend. "Of course he's coming too. Lily pressed her lips together and gave a shy nod. Since she hadn't planned on staying long, Emily said a few more words and then got up to leave. Lily offered to walk her out, but Emily refused with a smile, giving Lucas one last meaningful look before she left. Lucas didn't dare to overthink it. Even with the AC blasting, a drop of cold sweat trickled down his cheek. The living room fell silent, the only sound the hum of the air conditioner. After a moment, Lily suddenly flopped onto the couch, burying her face in a throw pillow. I don't want to live anymore, she whimpered, her slender legs kicking twice in frustration. Lucas couldn't help but smirk. Look at you. All you did was take a nap here, and not even in the same room. If you've done nothing wrong, you've got nothing to hide. She's definitely not going to believe that, Lily mumbled, feeling like she was becoming a bad kid. She had even stayed the night here before. That's a possibility, Lucas said, crawling over to her. He leaned over, trapping her beneath him, and whispered in her ear, since she's already suspicious, we might as well just start sleeping in the same room. Lucas Carter, a man of unimpeachable moral character, could not stand to be falsely accused. Since he was going to be under suspicion either way, he might as well be guilty. It was like the old saying, if they say you have nukes, you'd better actually have them. By the same logic, if they were going to call him a scoundrel, he might as well be one. Otherwise, where was the justice in that? Lily continued her ostrich impression, unswayed by his seduction. Lucas kissed her earlobe, then took the peaches Emily had brought and went to wash them in the kitchen. A little while later, Lily emerged, combing her long hair, ready to head back to campus for her afternoon class. Lying on the couch, Lucas bit into a peach and scrolled through his phone. It was a beautiful day, with clouds drifting high in the sky. Perfect weather for slacking off. He remembered feeling a sense of wistful nostalgia for classes right after he started the company. Now, he just thought that version of himself was an idiot. Not having to go to class was the best thing ever. As he was scrolling, he saw Lily's name pop up on the UW Confessions page. Someone had posted asking who his girlfriend was, since he'd mentioned her during his speech. A few fresh comments had appeared below. That's Lily Thompson, the ice queen of the accounting department. I've never seen a more beautiful girl in my life. Too bad she's taken. Someone needs to hose that guy down. You'd never even get a word in with her. She doesn't talk to anyone in our class. I'm in her class. Only one other girl has her on WhatsApp. Ice queen. Lucas looked up at Lily, who was still combing her hair, and almost burst out laughing. An ice queen? Seriously? Hilarious. There was no ice queen here. Just a cripplingly shy, sweet girl. It was a strange world where social anxiety could be mistaken for aloofness. Come here and let me hug you, Lucas demanded. Okay. Lily obediently walked into his arms. Do you want me to get you some water? If you keep picking at your lips, they'll start to bleed. I don't want to move. You can feed it to me. Okay. Lily quickly brought him a glass of warm water. Feeding him was a small price to pay if it meant he'd actually drink it. Lucas sat up and opened his mouth like a baby bird while she held the glass for him. For some reason, now that she'd been branded with this ridiculous label, teasing her felt even more satisfying. Why is my name on there? Lily asked, noticing the screen. It's just a bunch of people arguing. Don't worry about it, Lucas said after a few sips. He pushed the glass away. Water, with its distinct lack of flavor, was truly awful. He found the situation amusing. They're all calling you an ice queen, he teased. They'd never guess you're just socially awkward. This world, obsessed with looks, was so boring. He wanted to shout from the rooftops that his girlfriend's beauty was the least interesting thing about her. The irony was that before Lily had started to care about her appearance, no one had noticed her other qualities. People had even insulted her, and no one had stood up for her. It was pathetic. I'm your girlfriend, Lily mumbled, finding the random title silly. It didn't sound nearly as nice as Lucas's girlfriend. She pouted, defiant. And I'm not an ice queen. And I'm not socially awkward. Lucas snorted. Nice. You've learned to be stubborn. Your master is very proud. I wonder who it was that couldn't say a single word in front of my mom just now. Lily gave him a firm bump with her head and left for class. That afternoon, Aaron was slouched in the seat next to Lily, already in position for a nap before the lecture even started. She was only marginally a better student than Jason. She never failed a class, but that didn't stop her from sleeping through them. You seem distracted, Aaron said with a yawn. She'd rarely seen Lily as restless as she was today. Usually, the girl could sit as still as a statue through an entire lecture. Lily sighed and recounted the story of Emily's surprise visit. That's intense, Aaron said, her eyes lighting up. Her initial assessment had been correct. These two were far more entertaining than any TV show. I'm so mortified, Lily said, looking miserable. Do you think she thinks I'm promiscuous? Aaron thought for a moment. If I were her, I'd probably be hoping Lucas would seal the deal as soon as possible. Can't let a swan that's already in your grasp fly away. Lily was speechless. Halfway through the lecture, Erin let out a sudden snort of laughter. As the entire class turned to stare, she cleared her throat, her expression perfectly composed. Then, as if nothing had happened, she met every gaze with a look of pure innocence. A true social powerhouse, her nerve was unshakable. Only after everyone had looked away did she collapse on her desk, shaking with laughter. "What's wrong?" Lily whispered, bewildered. She'd been lost in thought, wondering if Lucas had remembered to drink his water, when Erin's outburst had startled her. Erin had just spent the last few seconds thinking of the saddest moments of her life, and even that had barely contained her laughter. She clutched her stomach and handed her phone to Lily without a word. Lily took the phone. Her eyes blinked as she read the screen, and a deep blush immediately spread to the roots of her hair. Her breathing grew shallow. It was the same post she had seen that morning, but now there was a new, very prominent reply. "Lucas Carter, haha. Wow, you guys have been busy. My girlfriend just kissed me into a coma. I'm only now waking up. Thanks for the compliments, but she's just okay, I guess. A little bit prettier than every other girl. Smug. JPG. No wonder everyone had been giving her weird looks when she came to class." She collapsed on her desk, just like Erin, burying her burning face in her arms. She never wanted to see another human being again. While Lily was begging Erin to find someone to delete the post, Lucas was busy with a matter of life and death. That is, he was once again continuing his campaign to boil the frog. He had called for another AC repair. When the technician arrived, Lucas greeted him with a wide grin. "Sir, what do you do for a living?" The older man who showed up this time was clearly a no-nonsense type. He didn't get the joke and just blinked at Lucas. "What's wrong with your AC?" "Nothing's wrong with it." "Then why'd you call me?" "I want something to be wrong with it." "You got something wrong with you." The technician looked completely bewildered, as if he'd never heard a stranger request in his life. Lucas pointed to his bedroom. "I just need you to break it for me. I'm paying you for your time." He paused. "Hey, don't call the police. Let me explain." At dusk, spectacular, fiery clouds stretched across the horizon. The old apartment complex was filled with the cheerful noise of children playing after school. It was a neighborhood of the young and the old, a place where you could greet familiar faces and feel a sense of community, one of the few good things about living in an older building. Lily returned after class with bags full of groceries, planning to cook dinner for Lucas before heading home. As she was about to enter the building, she nearly collided with a middle-aged woman with curly hair. "You must be Lucas's girlfriend, right? My, you're a pretty one." Lily jumped. Hello, ma'am. Here, take this bag of peaches. I just bought way too many at the market." "Oh no, we have some at home. Lucas helped me carry my rice up the other day. I can't let him work for free. Now, don't you argue with me. If you don't take them, I'll be cross. Go on." "Oh, okay." Forced to accept the unexpected gift, Lily walked in the door and saw Lucas lounging on the couch. She puffed out her cheeks in annoyance. "Well, look what the cat dragged in," he said in a strange, exaggerated tone. The embarrassment from his online comment came rushing back. Lily walked over to the couch, put her hands on his shoulders for balance, and firmly bumped his chest with her head. "So you're only brave with me, huh?" Lucas cried out in mock pain, then lunged to tickle her. He thought she was leaning in for a kiss. This girl was getting bolder, but only with him. It was terribly unfair. Lily, caught in his embrace, gave up trying to escape and looked at him with a pitiful expression. "You can't bully me," she whined. The cute act was a critical hit, nearly depleting Lucas's entire health bar. But he wouldn't yield. She couldn't just get away with a free hit after everything she'd put him through. He tightened his arms around her waist, inhaling the fresh scent of her hair. "Give me one good reason to let you go." Her stomach was soft under his hand. He gave a little squeeze. "Your comment this afternoon got me teased by Erin all the way out of campus," Lily said, looking wronged. "This is my revenge." "So dock her pay," Lucas said dismissively. "She's making $100,000 a year now." He leaned in, his lips close to her ear. "Here's what you do," he whispered playfully. "You deduct it in $100 increments, the price of a major microtransaction. She'll feel the pain then." "She doesn't work for me. You're the boss's wife." "I am not." Lily was exasperated. He found a way to tease her from every possible angle. It was impossible to defend against. "And my classmates were looking at me funny all afternoon. I could tell you didn't like being the center of attention, so I stepped in. I couldn't just tell them all to shut up, right? I had to be more subtle." Lily blinked, thinking it over. After a long moment, she vaguely understood his logic. She bit her lip, a sudden urge to kiss him welling up inside her. But Lucas was already preoccupied with the development of their second game and had lost interest in teasing her. He flopped back onto the couch, leaving Lily standing there in a daze. Why'd you buy more peaches? My mom brought a ton, he said, noticing the bag. His eyes, once curious, dimmed when he saw they were all soft peaches. What are you two trying to do? Raise a monkey. The sweet, crisp ones were so much better. I didn't buy them, Lily said, putting the other groceries in the fridge. Oh, Lucas found this interesting. Did someone give them to you because you're pretty? A lady gave them to me. Lily twisted a strand of her hair, shaking her head gently. The one with the curly hair. She couldn't place the face, and the situation, someone recognizing her when she didn't recognize them, was mortifying. Oh, Lucas said, pointing at the floor. That must be Mrs. Gable from downstairs. Her daughter is an academic advisor at UW in the accounting department, I think. Lily looked at him as if he were a ghost. How do you know everything? We just chatted. You run into people enough, you can't just ignore them. Besides, this is a neighborhood full of university people. It doesn't hurt to know them. If you know enough people and you talk long enough, you'll eventually find a mutual acquaintance. That's networking. The real reason, of course, was that he couldn't stand being the one to let a conversation die. If the other person said, oh, and went quiet, great, but he would never be the one to do it. The upside was that people thought he was polite. The downside was that if he ran into a chatterbox, he was trapped. Lily didn't fully grasp the concept, but it sounded impressive. She leaned over and gave his cheek a light kiss before heading to the kitchen to cook. After dinner, it was only a little past 6, and the sun hadn't set yet, so Lily didn't rush home. Lucas finished the dishes and sat on the couch, closing his eyes to think. The studio now had some buzz, and their second game had a prototype. It was time to start planning their marketing strategy. Seeing that he was concentrating, Lily didn't disturb him. She sat nearby, engrossed in her drawing. It had started as a hobby, but when Aaron mentioned how much money a good artist could make, she had found a new source of motivation. Lily had realized that finding a hobby wasn't really for her, and neither was being a trophy girlfriend supported by Lucas. And though she knew she was a little slower than him, she hadn't given up on her dream of one day being the one to support him. Aaron said I should create an account on ArtStation and post my work to build a following. Lily said, propping her chin on her hands. She said it could help me make money later on. Lucas opened his eyes. You might not find drawing tiring now, but once you start doing it for money, it becomes torture. Look at me. I used to love playing games. Now that I make them, I barely want to touch them. It was like setting your favorite song as your alarm. As a kid, Lucas had thought a great song would make him leap out of bed. In the end, he still slept in, and he grew to hate the song. Never underestimate human laziness. When mixed with the desire to slack off, a hobby ceases to be a hobby and becomes an endless source of misery. A sudden idea struck him, and he grinned. If our future kids get addicted to games, I'll use this to cure them. Lily froze for a second, then glared at him. You're shameless. I just mentioned kids, not the process of making them, Lucas said with a shrug, feigning innocence. His current clearance level was only at climbing mountains and touching legs. The fact that you think I'm shameless says a lot about your own dangerous thoughts, Ms. Thompson. Lily knew she was no match for him in a verbal spar. She buried her face in her arms with a huff, refusing to engage with his twisted logic. He was the one thinking dirty thoughts all day, and he had the nerve to call her dangerous. It was so unfair. All she had been doing was thinking about names for their kids. Nothing else. Speaking of which, should I connect you with a professional artist to mentor you? Lucas asked seriously. Now that he was in the industry, it wouldn't be hard to find someone. No, it's okay. Erin is so talented. I have enough to learn from her until I can catch up, Lily replied instantly, completely forgetting her plan to give him the silent treatment. After all this time, she was still stuck on level 1 of that particular challenge. She couldn't even last 10 seconds. Lucas smirked. Lily clearly had her own plans. He didn't need to worry about her. So, should I create the account or not? She asked. If you want to try it, go for it. I thought you wouldn't approve, she said quietly, remembering his long speech. I was just laying out the pros and cons, Lucas said with a gentle smile. Whatever you decide to do, I'll support you unconditionally. Lily's clear eyes, visible over her folded arms, blinked once, then quickly darted away. But not before Lucas saw the corners of her eyes crinkle. She was definitely smiling to herself. Heh, my sweet, stubborn girl. The next day, the first of the October-long weekend, Lucas brought Lily to his family's front door. Just as he was about to unlock it, she grabbed his hand. What's wrong? He asked, surprised. I'm not mentally prepared. Lily took a couple of deep breaths. She had finally gotten comfortable around his parents, but after being caught in the act by his mom, all her anxiety had come flooding back, even stronger this time. Lucas squeezed her soft hand. I have a way to make you less nervous. What is it? Lily turned to him, her eyes wide with interest, as if he'd just thrown her a lifeline. He leaned in close. "Here's the plan," he whispered. "You walk in there and just call her Mom. Then she'll be the one who's nervous." Lily just stared at him, her lips pressed into a thin line. Her expression clearly said, "Do you hear the words coming out of your mouth?" Lucas grinned. She knew she couldn't win an argument with him, so now she'd resorted to silent moral condemnation. It wouldn't work. He had to find a way to get rid of his conscience entirely. It was just getting in the way. Thanks to his nonsense, however, Lily's attention had been successfully diverted, and her nerve had calmed considerably. After they stood outside the door for a few more minutes, she finally felt ready, and Lucas unlocked it. Seeing his casual, unbothered attitude after she'd made him wait so long, she felt a pang of affection. "Mom, I brought your daughter-in-law home," Lucas yelled the moment they stepped inside. Lily froze on the spot. So much for all that mental preparation. "Give me back my moment of sentimental affection," she thought desperately. Emily emerged from the bedroom, a phone to her ear. "Lily, you're here so early. Have a seat. I'm just on a work call." She pointed to the sofa before turning her attention back to the phone. "What was that noise?" "Oh, that was just my son bringing his girlfriend home." "About that report." She paused. "Is your oldest still single?" "Oh, you'd better get on that. It's a different world now. It gets harder to find someone the older they get. You know Linda's son is getting married in a few days. She's just sitting at home now, waiting for grandchildren." Emily continued her conversation as she walked back into her room. Lucas shot his mother an exasperated look and led Lily to the sofa. It was obvious what was happening. Emily was now dishing out all the humble brags her colleagues had subjected her to for years. The circle of life for these women with their cushy, stable jobs wasn't about houses or cars. It was about who got a hold of grandchild first. His mom used to come home stressed out by all the anxiety her friends were peddling, and now she was the source of it. How the tables had turned. As soon as they sat down, Lucas noticed Lily kept glancing to the side. He followed her gaze and saw his sister, Emma, lying flat on her back on the other end of the sofa, a book covering her face. Lily probably thought she was sleeping and didn't dare greet her. Lucas had no such qualms. "I've lived my whole life without ever imagining you reading a book at home," he said mockingly. What a rare sight. Like a corpse reanimating, Emma slowly sat up. The dark circles under her eyes made her look like a panda. "I have no choice. The SATs are coming up. Stop studying. I'll take you shopping. Pick out whatever you want," Lucas said, slapping a credit card on the coffee table. "Deal." Emma's dead eyes instantly lit up. But just as her fingers were about to touch the card, Lucas snatched it back with a grin. "Just kidding. Never trust anyone. A free life lesson from your big brother." "You're welcome." Emma seethed, then launched herself at Lily, burying her face in her arms. "Sis, look at him." Lily was used to Emma calling her that by now. She said nothing, but gently began to massage the area around Emma's eyes, her touch and expression incredibly tender. Now, it was Lucas's turn to seethe. He had never wanted to be an only child more than at this moment. He needed to find a way to sell his sister, and he was willing to pay someone to take her. After 2 minutes, he couldn't stand it anymore. "Don't you have a conscience? Your sister-in-law's hands get tired too, you know." Emma decided he had a point and sat up with a giggle. "My turn," Lucas said, sidling up to Lily. Emma stared at him. "Are you even human?" she shrieked. Just as the sibling squabble was escalating, Emily came out of her room. The sight of a bickering Lucas and Emma, with a helpless-looking Lily caught in the middle, made her blood pressure spike. She took a deep breath. "How old are you two? Still fighting like this? And you've been here all this time without even getting Lily a glass of water." "Mom, you're breaking my heart," Lucas whined. "If you keep this up, I'm really going to run away from home." The family had a set of 4 matching ceramic mugs, each with a cartoon character on it. Now there were 5. Emily took a brand new mug from the cabinet and poured Lily some water. "You promise?" "If my brother goes, I go too," Emma added, fanning the flames. Surely the two of them together were worth more than her future sister-in-law, right? Emily scoffed. "Oh, a double blessing." The atmosphere made Lily's lips curve into a soft, genuine smile. Unlike before, when she had felt like an outsider, she now felt like she was part of the picture, a piece of the puzzle that made this warm, chaotic family complete. Her nose tingled. This family had accepted her so completely. Compared to the happiness she felt now, all the hardships she had endured in the past felt worthwhile. She was so glad she had held on. Emily patted Lily's head. "Later, Lucas and I will go pick up your mother," she said gently. "We can all have dinner together." Lily's mouth opened slightly. As she hesitated, wondering how to respond, Lucas spoke for her. "I already asked before we came. Sophie is still not getting around very easily, but she said you're welcome to come over to her place for dinner sometime. Lily snuck a glance at him. It seemed he would never let her be put in an awkward position, except when he was the one bullying her. All right, Emily said with an understanding nod. It was still only 9 in the morning, a while before lunch. After chatting for a bit, Emma got restless. Let's go shopping, she declared. When Lucas didn't respond, she cleverly turned her attention to Lily. Anyone could see that the instruction manual for her brother was currently in her sister-in-law's possession. Lily, with her gentle nature, couldn't bring herself to refuse. After a little coaxing, she agreed. A little while later, a changed Emma zipped out of her room. Like Lily, she was wearing a t-shirt and skinny jeans, but where Lily looked elegant and gentle, Emma radiated youthful energy. It was true what they said, your personality really does shine through. Why are you dressed so casually today? Lucas asked. Emma retorted. Even if I got all dressed up, I wouldn't look as good as my sister-in-law does with no makeup on. How embarrassing would that be? If you don't even try, you can still claim you're just a little behind the best. But if you actually try and still lose, then you have no excuses. Emma, on the other hand, was completely blunt about it, grinning without a care in the world. Being effortlessly carefree was her whole brand. Emily Carter pulled out her phone to send Emma some money. Here, you and Lily can go buy yourselves something nice. We're good, Emma said with an air of extravagance, her eyes darting toward the pocket where Lucas kept his wallet. Lucas caught on immediately. Don't even think about it. The money on that card is mine. Emma ignored him, turning to Lily instead. Sis, can you buy me a dress? Lily mentally calculated her remaining allowance and nodded emphatically. See, your money is basically my sister-in-law's money, and she already said yes, Emma declared triumphantly. Of course, she had no intention of letting Lily pay. This was all just an elaborate setup to mess with her brother. When Lucas didn't respond, she pressed on. You wouldn't want your sister and your girlfriend to get held at the store because they can't pay, would you? I have money, Lily whispered. You two go ahead. Something came up at the studio, Lucas said suddenly, glancing at his phone. Running 2 projects at once was clearly straining their resources. The new game was riddled with bugs. A flicker of disappointment crossed Lily's face, but it vanished as quickly as it appeared. Not long after Emma and Lily left, Lucas stood up to leave as well. I'll be back for lunch. He was about to head out the door when Emily stopped him. Wait a second. He turned back, curious. His mom cleared her throat. Come over here. You're not going to ground me, are you? Lucas asked. I will if you don't come over here. Growing more confused, Lucas sat down on the couch, a bewildered look on his face. Emily soon emerged from her bedroom, holding a thick, sealed manila envelope. She looked a little nervous, as if she were handling classified documents. Lucas took it. He could feel a small box inside, but he couldn't guess what it was. You're an adult now, and your father and I can't tell you what to do anymore, Emily said, speaking more to herself than to him. But whatever you do, you need to be smart about it, understand? Being an adult means taking responsibility. You have to think things through before you. Lucas wasn't really listening, nor did he understand what she was trying to say. He reached for the metal clasps on the envelope. Don't you open that until you get home, Emily commanded sharply. Okay, Lucas said, startled. He held the envelope in his hand. I'm heading out then. The moment he was out of the building, Lucas practically sprinted away. He couldn't remember the last time he'd moved that fast. He was just too damn curious. He was thankful his mom had only said to wait until he got home. If she'd been any more dramatic about it, he wouldn't have been able to sleep for days. The envelope was not only sealed, but also stapled shut with a dense row of staples. You'd think it contained state secrets. Lucas grumbled and just ripped the whole thing open. Inside, he saw a small, rectangular blue box. Durex. Oh, hell no. Lucas froze. Even if he had zero personal experience, it was the kind of thing every guy recognized. Why would my mom give me this? He'd always acted like he didn't care if people got the wrong idea, but now that his own mother had, it felt genuinely awkward. He was, in fact, a perfect gentleman. This felt like a gross miscarriage of justice. After a moment of thought, Lucas decided he couldn't keep it. What if Lily found it one day and thought he was some kind of predator? His pristine reputation would be ruined. He wasn't a pervert. That day, Lily's leg had practically landed on his hand all on its own. It had nothing to do with him. He was about to toss the box into a trash can with the torn envelope, but then he hesitated. In the end, he only threw the envelope away. Might as well keep it, he muttered. It'll get used eventually. Meanwhile, with the fall break in full swing, the mall was packed. Couples, families, and teenagers milled about everywhere. Noticing the occasional glances thrown her way, Emma felt a surge of pride in her foresight. Trying to outshine a girl like Lily, a girl so beautiful other girls drooled over her, was the stupidest thing a person could do. Holding a bubble tea and linking her arm through Lily's, she strolled confidently through the crowds. Social anxiety, it seemed, was not her problem. Lily, on the other hand, was a nervous wreck, her head bowed as she tried to navigate the overwhelming environment. Halfway through the store, Lily suddenly stopped and looked around. "What's wrong?" Emma asked. "This is where I first saw you," Lily said, her voice so soft it was instantly swallowed by the surrounding noise. "Huh? Didn't we first meet at my house?" Lily snapped back to reality. "Oh right, I misremembered." Emma sighed dramatically. "Sis, you can't keep being this clueless. What if my brother tricks you into being eaten alive one of these days?" "And no, he wouldn't." "I'm not that clueless," Lily said, casting a nervous glance around. Even in the noisy mall, she was terrified someone might overhear them. "Besides, he wouldn't trick me," she thought to herself, a warm feeling spreading through her chest. "If he wanted to, he would have done it a long time ago." "Oh, so you two haven't gotten to that stage yet," Emma said with a wicked grin. "My brother's got no game, and she says she's not clueless?" Emma thought, "I barely prodded you, and you gave everything away." Lily bit her lower lip, looking hurt. It was official. She was no match for either of the Carter siblings. A little while later, Emma spotted an apricot-colored dress that she instantly fell in love with. Then she saw the price tag, $198. Her heart sank. "Do you like it? I can buy it for you," Lily said earnestly. She never hesitated to spend money on people she cared about. Her financial situation was better now. She could afford it if she stretched a little. She had fewer expenses, but she was still working just as many part-time shifts. Emma really wanted the dress, but after buying textbooks and concert tickets, her own funds were depleted. An idea sparked. After declaring she wouldn't buy it, she led Lily around for a bit longer before suddenly announcing, "Sis, you're a mature woman now. You need to learn how to trick your boyfriend into coming to the mall." Lily pursed her lips. "He's busy, and I don't want to trick him. He just doesn't want to go shopping with us," Emma said, a pang of hurt in her chest. Lucas didn't want to avoid shopping with them. He just wanted to avoid shopping with her. Otherwise, he wouldn't have waited until they left to leave himself. She'd bet anything that if she wasn't here, he'd have come running. A little sister gets no respect. Lily looked down, fidgeting with her fingers. "I don't know what to say. It's a natural female instinct. You just haven't unlocked it yet," Emma said seriously. "Trust your gut." Lily thought hard, recalling all the advice Aaron and Emma had given her, searching for something useful. But as the saying goes, a bad teacher makes for a bad student. After much deliberation, she finally came up with a plan. "Lily, are you still busy?" "Lucas, yeah." "Lily, Emma and I saw a cat doing backflips by the mall entrance. You want to come see?" Emma stared at the chat window, her jaw practically on the floor. "Okay, sis, never mind. You definitely don't have a talent for this." But just as she finished speaking, Lucas's reply came through. "Lucas, seriously? I'm on my way. What is wrong with you two?" Emma screamed internally. "Why are both of your brains wired so weirdly?" "I believe there are two main reasons our second game is falling behind schedule," Leo Jenkins announced, pacing in front of a PowerPoint presentation he'd prepared. "First, we haven't slowed down the update frequency for Tower of Slaughter, which is eating up too much of our energy. Second, a lot of our team members don't have the technical skills for the current project. I need you all to get up to speed. Don't be the one dragging everyone else down." He continued, "Because the timeline for the new game is uncertain, I propose that for the next 2 weeks, the programming team focuses on stabilizing the revenue from Tower of Slaughter. Everyone's going to have to put in some overtime to get familiar with the new game's architecture." Lucas sat off to the side, chin propped on his hand, his eyes glued to the phone hidden under the table. Leo turned to him. "Lucas, that's the situation. Do you have any other directives?" "Let's stick with your plan for now. I'll figure out the other problems," Lucas said quietly, proving he'd been listening. He looked up, scanning the room. "Listen, everyone, since the day you started here, have I ever been late with a paycheck? And the bonuses have been better than you expected, right?" The team members exchanged glances and then nodded in unison. It was more than just good pay and bonuses. When work was slow, they could come in late or leave early without getting docked, or even reprimanded. Most of the staff were interns or recent graduates, and they knew how good they had it here. Their friends were green with envy. Lucas nodded. "I'll be responsible for finding a solution to the technical issues. All you need to do is work hard to keep up. But let me repeat, project deadlines are tied to individuals. If you can't deliver, you'll get your final paycheck and you're out." "Got it," they all replied in unison. They were used to his bluntness and knew he meant it. Lucas was chill about them slacking off when things were slow, but he wouldn't hesitate to fire anyone who missed a deadline and held up the team. If there was one person in the company who could make a mistake without consequence, it It was the beautiful and ethereal boss's girlfriend. She was, without exaggeration, the apple of his eye. Lucas stood up and walked out, Jason Miller following close behind with a look of disdain. The guy was a master of the carrot and stick approach. A real shark. About the investment from Titan Gaming. Jason started as soon as they were outside, grabbing Lucas's arm. We might need to fly out to San Jose in a few days. He looked troubled. I was hoping you wouldn't have to make the trip, but it seems like they'd rather talk to you. Lucas looked up, thinking for a moment. Let's push it back a few days. Why? It's Lily's birthday. Lucas finished and dangled his car keys, indicating he was leaving. Watching Lucas's retreating back, Jason let out a bitter, weary sigh. It felt just like it had back in college during finals week. Lucas would do his part, then leave the rest to fate and go about his business. Jason, meanwhile, would stare at a mountain of notes, panic, and pull an all-nighter, only to score way lower than Lucas. He couldn't believe it. Lucas had been that carefree when all that was at stake was flunking a class. Now, with their second game on the verge of being dead in the water due to technical problems, he was just as calm. It was the one thing about Lucas he'd never been able to figure out. Lost in thought, his phone rang. It was Vanessa. Her voice, though tinged with exhaustion, was cheerful. I'm finally done with the LSATs. So, have you planned our trip yet? I'm telling you, the thought of it was the only thing that got me through studying. If I could do it all over, I swear I'd major in engineering before I ever chose pre-law again. Jason didn't have the heart to laugh at her joke. He stared out the floor-to-ceiling window at the students milling around below and felt a pang of envy. After a moment of silence, he exhaled a puff of smoke. Things at the studio are a little rocky right now. Can we go in a little while? Okay, you get back to work. Just don't forget, she said. The excitement in her voice was gone, replaced by a flat tone, as if doused with cold water. A moment later, he heard the click of the call ending. He didn't bother calling back. Leaning his head against the back of his chair, he let out a long breath. This was the reality of a startup. Stepping out of your comfort zone meant taking risks. If you didn't, you had no future. He knew panicking wouldn't help, but he didn't have the mental energy for anything else. He just kept thinking they had to find a way to try something. The only viable option was getting technical support from Titan Gaming, which meant he and Lucas absolutely had to make that trip to San Jose. The alternative was to abandon the new game, letting it die on a vine. All their initial investment would go down the drain. It wouldn't bankrupt the company, but it would be a major blow. Or they could bet the farm and risk the project, dragging the entire company down with it. Neither was a good option. Truthfully, Lucas wasn't in a playful mood either. But if Lily missed him, he had to go to her. He parked the car and sat in silence for a moment, checking his reflection in the rearview mirror to make sure he didn't look stressed before getting out. A mature man shouldn't bring his negative emotions home to his family. At least, that's what he believed. Walking from the parking lot to the mall entrance, he didn't even have to look hard to spot a slender figure standing there timidly, oblivious to the sun beating down on her. Lily was waiting for him. She was wearing the t-shirt he'd bought her with a pair of form-fitting blue jeans. Her hands were clasped in front of her, her fingers fiddling nervously. She looked like a lost little girl waiting for her parents to find her. Didn't I tell you not to wait for me outside? You'll get a sunburn, Lucas said, knowing it was useless but unable to stop himself. I'm not hot, she said, her eyes lighting up with undisguised joy when she saw him. So, where's the cat? Lucas asked with a smile. It ran away, Lily said, turning her face away guiltily. Unlike Lucas, who could spin a tale about an alien invasion without blinking, she blushed and her heart pounded whenever she told the smallest lie. Lucas chuckled to himself, but said nothing. Yeah, right. You sweet dork, you can't even lie properly. She had probably learned this trick from some listicle of top 10 lies scumbags tell that some perpetually single friend had warned her about, and in her infinite wisdom, had decided to use it on him. That's a shame. If only I'd gotten here sooner, Lucas said, feigning deep regret. The ploy was clumsy, but what could he do? He had to play along. This was his girlfriend, and he had to be the one to indulge her. Just as Lily was sighing in relief, Lucas leaned in with a mischievous grin. You're not lying to me, are you? Liars' noses grow longer, you know. That wouldn't be a good look for you. I'm not, Lily whispered, instinctively touching her nose before stepping forward to take the hand Lucas held out behind him. When they found her, she was lounging in the seating area, leisurely sipping her bubble tea. Lucas glanced at Lily beside him, feeling a fresh wave of affection. What more could a guy ask from this sweet dork who would always wait for you? The thought only made him more annoyed with his sister. He walked over and tapped him on the head. Startled, Emma whipped her head around, her face a mask of fury. But the moment she saw it was her brother. Her expression instantly melted into a bright smile. Hey bro, you're here. The speed of her transformation sent a chill down Lucas's spine. Just spit it out, he said bluntly. What do you want to buy? The look on her face a second ago was murderous. Now she was all sunshine and rainbows. This girl was something else. Emma just smiled and, without a word, pulled them toward the dress section. Lucas looked around boredly. Then his eyes landed on the spot where Lily used to work part-time in a mascot costume. This place, he murmured. What about it? Emma asked, turning back curiously. Lily also tilted her head to look at him. Nothing, Lucas said, clearing his throat quickly. He'd almost let it slip that he had recognized Lily back then. He was sure that if he'd said it, Lily would have jumped off the roof in embarrassment. The memory of her masterful acting in the coffee shop brought an involuntary smile to his face. That dork would probably never learn how to lie. He felt a sudden urge to hum a sarcastic tune. And the award for Best Supporting Actress goes to... Emma stared at the store, her brow furrowed. She sensed there was more to this story. I'll take a new one of these, Emma announced as soon as they arrived, pointing directly at the dress she'd been eyeing earlier, looking every bit the big spender. If the sales associate didn't have a good memory for faces, she might have forgotten that this was the same girl who'd reluctantly walked away just a short while ago. You'd think she was some wealthy heiress. Despite her decisiveness, Emma tried it on before paying. Coming out of the dressing room, she looked at the dress, which fit her perfectly, and loved it even more. Excluding the statistical anomaly that was Lily, whose looks and figure were just unfair, she thought she held her own pretty well. Bro, does it look good? She asked excitedly. Uh-huh, looks great, Lucas replied without looking up, his attention focused on holding Lily's hand. Lily, however, took out her phone and snapped a picture for Emma. After striking a pose, Emma turned to the sales associate with a grin. I'll take it. Seeing Lucas looking everywhere, but at the cash register, with no intention of paying, she was about to say something when she saw him tap his phone. She instantly understood and pulled out her own. Lucas, buy it and get lost. Don't be a third wheel. Emma, you got it. Want to buy me another one? I can even trick my sis into your bed for you. Lucas, it was the worst luck of my girlfriend's life that she ever met you and Aaron. Lucas was speechless. One for vacation, the other for a dress. Those two would sell Lily out without a second thought. After everything was bagged, just as Lily was about to pay, Lucas stopped her. I'll get it, he said softly. Wait until you've married into our family before you let her scam you. Lily wanted to argue, but the words married into our family echoed in her mind, leaving her frozen and speechless. In the end, Lucas had to physically pull the stunned, blushing girl away. After sending the third wheel on her way, the two of them didn't rush back, continuing to wander through the mall. Along the way, Lily kept glancing at Lucas, feeling that he seemed distracted today. Are you not feeling well? Maybe we should go home, she asked quietly, her clear, beautiful eyes filled with concern. She knew she could be a bit clueless, but she could always tell when Lucas was in a bad mood. It wasn't something she had to think about. It was pure instinct. Lucas shook his head, gently tracing the calluses on her fingertips. I'm fine, he said with a light laugh. Come on, I'll buy you a dress too. For some reason, Lily picked out a dress quickly today. She didn't compare prices or browse multiple stores, just chose one that she thought was nice enough. You're not going to look around more? Lucas asked, surprised. This one's nice. I'll go try it on. Okay. A few minutes later, Lily emerged from the dressing room. She was wearing an off-white slip dress with a short, cream-colored knit cardigan over it, which instantly transformed the otherwise revealing dress into something modest. But like a cheap how, even if the wearer was completely covered, the knowledge of what lay underneath made it undeniably alluring. A slip dress was still a slip dress. Her slender calves and beautiful collarbones were exposed, making it hard to know where to look. And that was to say nothing of her delicate waist and graceful figure. Lucas's eyes practically bugged out. If she didn't speak, she could pass for a cool, aloof goddess. This dork was just unfair, being that beautiful meant she could pull off any style. His mind began to wander. They paid for the dress, and Lily pulled him away. My love, do I look pretty? Lily whispered, leaning close to his ear as she reached him. Her face was flushed as she enunciated each word, her warm breath ghosting across his cheek. The sales associate stared blankly at Lily's back, then looked up at the promotional poster beside her. The model on it was wearing the exact same dress. They definitely hired the wrong model, she thought. He snapped back to reality, all semblance of composure gone as he nodded his head like a woodpecker. He suddenly realized that Lily being able to pull off any style was definitely not a bad thing for him. The parking garage was much less crowded than the mall, so Lily didn't bother pushing away Lucas's hands, which had been restless the entire walk over. What harm could a sweet dork do? She just wanted to make him a little happier. As they reached the car, Just as Lily was about to open the door, Lucas shouted, "Wait!" Startled, she looked at him nervously. "What's wrong?" "There's a spider in the car, the size of a cat," he said, his voice filled with panic. "What?" Lily jumped back. She wasn't afraid of bugs, but a spider that big would terrify anyone. Seeing the usually unflappable Lucas so agitated, she started to panic too. Lucas pulled her aside, got into the car first, and quickly hid the small blue box that had been sitting on the passenger seat. Only then did he breathe a sigh of relief. Damn, forgot to hide this thing. It was so frustrating. Even if Lily didn't recognize the box, she could still read. It was like a time bomb waiting to go off. Once he was sure it was hidden, Lucas slowly rolled down the window and chuckled. "Just kidding. Get it?" Lily pursed her lips in exasperation. Her boyfriend could be so childish sometimes. She'd actually thought there was a spider. She got into the car, completely unaware that something far more terrifying than a spider was now hidden inside. Half an hour later, Lucas pulled into the underground parking garage of their apartment complex. He found it strange that Lily hadn't said a word the entire ride, looking like she was in a bad mood. "I'm sorry," she whispered. She really hated lying to him, no matter how small the lie. "What are you sorry for?" "I lied. I didn't see a cat doing a backflip," she said, her hands twisting together, her voice trembling slightly. Her watery, glistening eyes were filled with guilt as she looked at him. I just really missed you." The entire ride, she had been worrying. Had she been too selfish? Was he really busy? Was something wrong at work? Had she just made things more difficult for him? The guilt washed over her in waves, suffocating her. The word selfish should never have entered her mind. "What's there to be sorry about?" "You're so silly," Lucas chuckled. He didn't care about something like that. He actually found it amusing. When he saw her message, he'd thought it was adorable. But then, another thought occurred to him. He said slowly, "But kids who make mistakes have to accept their punishment." "What punishment?" Lily asked nervously. He wasn't going to spank her, was he? A smirk played on Lucas's lips. "I'm not telling you. You'll find out in my room." "Oh, I'll go make dinner." As soon as they were inside, Lily tried to make a run for it. "My mom's cooking today," Lucas said, kicking off his shoes. Emily had insisted on taking charge. She couldn't let her future daughter-in-law cook every time, could she? People might think they were running a sweatshop. "Then I'll go help." "Don't you dare run," Lucas said, his voice intentionally cold. As expected, Lily froze like a startled deer. A moment later, Lily walked hesitantly into Lucas's room. It was nearly noon, and with the curtains drawn, the room was dim. A sliver of sunlight pierced through a gap, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. Everything in his room was perfectly organized, a testament to his preference for neatness over her own focus on simple cleanliness. If she had OCD, Lily thought the sight would have been incredibly satisfying. As it was still pleasing to the eye, a classic case of loving him, loving his room. She wasn't actually that nervous. After all, they were at his house, with Emma and Emily just outside. No matter how much his hormones were raging, he wouldn't try anything serious in this situation, right? That's what she thought, until Lucas shut the door with a definitive click. Lily spun around, staring at him in bewilderment. "What are you doing?" "Isn't it obvious?" he said, his face a blank mask. As he advanced, she backed away until she stumbled and fell onto the bed. The cardigan she wore over her slip dress fell open, revealing her elegant neck and the delicate curve of her collarbones. Her clear, bright eyes were fixed on him, the picture of an innocent maiden about to be wronged. The sight made Lucas swallow hard. He leaned down, his lips hovering just inches from hers. He could feel her short, warm breaths against his skin. In a last, desperate act, Lily remembered her trump card. "Your mom and Emma are right outside," she whispered. Lucas nodded. "Which is why I suggest you keep your voice down. You wouldn't want them to hear." "Wait, what?" Lily couldn't comprehend how he had managed to turn a threat back on her. Their lips pressed together. Lucas's hands were never idle during a kiss, but this time, she didn't dare resist. This was her punishment for lying, after all. After a few seconds, he gave her hand a gentle squeeze, and she obediently parted her lips. Talent was a funny thing. Lucas had awakened his masculine instincts and was now miles ahead, leaving Lily to fumble along in her attempts to keep up. "Lie down. Now," he said suddenly, his tone uncharacteristically cold and strange. Lily froze. Was she really going to lose her virtue over a little white lie? That seemed a bit extreme. Seeing his unwavering gaze, she began to panic. "No, not yet. My mom isn't fully recovered. What if I got pregnant? Who would take care of her? Just a little longer, it'll be okay soon." She pleaded softly, her voice trembling. She didn't realize how far her boundaries had already shifted, leaving her standing at the edge of a cliff. Sophia's recovery was going exceptionally well. She would be self-sufficient soon. Lucas didn't quite catch her meaning. He continued his act. Do you have any idea who you're talking to? I'm warning you, you're playing with fire. Lily shrank back, a mixture of fear and anxiety welling up inside her. Just as she was starting to feel genuinely hurt, Lucas's brooding CEO act completely fell apart. That was so cringy, he said, clutching his stomach as he laughed. I can't believe you actually fell for it. He couldn't fathom how male leads in those novels could say such ridiculous lines with a straight face. Just mimicking it for fun gave him goosebumps. His laughter died down when he saw her hurt expression. A pang of guilt hit him. God, I'm such a jerk. What did you mean? It'll be okay soon, he asked curiously. I got nervous and misspoke. It's nothing. Oh, Lucas, his mind already a mess, didn't press further. He went straight for his original goal, making a grabbing motion with his hand. Legs. The girl pursed her lips, but eventually complied, sitting sideways and resting her long, slender legs on his lap. Lucas felt like he had finally figured out her instruction manual. Lily was the type of person who liked to compromise. For instance, if you asked to touch her leg, she would be shy and refuse. But if you told her you wanted to devour her whole, she would meet you in the middle and let you touch her leg. If he kept digging these little traps, wouldn't sharing a bed with her be just around the corner? And once they were in the same bed, the rest would follow naturally. Her legs were incredibly smooth. His palm glided from her thigh down to her calf like it was on a water slide. It was better than any stress relief toy. He swallowed again and leaned over to kiss her thigh. Lily jumped. Why did you kiss me there? Feeling rebellious, Lucas planted another kiss on her other leg. Where can't I kiss you? He teased with a grin. You're going to marry me one day. What part of you won't be mine? The girl bit her lip, embarrassed. The stimulation made her press her legs tightly together, her feet rubbing against each other nervously. It's all yours. That little movement drew Lucas's attention to a new target. While he wasn't a foot fetishist, he doubted many could resist a girl in short white socks. But no, he was definitely not a foot fetishist. Lily didn't even bother asking why he was touching her feet now. She just whispered, "You can't kiss here." I haven't sunk to that level of depravity yet. He didn't know why he'd unconsciously added the yet. Since Lily was extremely ticklish, Lucas soon returned to just caressing her legs. He stared straight ahead, his gaze unfocused. Though his hands were being mischievous, his mind was on serious matters. He couldn't gamble with the company's future. Even if it meant writing off their initial investment, he couldn't bet on them being able to muscle through and finish the second game. The choice between a guaranteed setback and the risk of total failure was an easy one. From the very beginning, his bottom line had been not to take a single penny from his family. If things went south, he just shut it down. He couldn't make such a huge bet. But before accepting that reality, he could still fight a little. Lucas. Lily's voice, soft as a mosquito's buzz, broke his concentration. What's up? Are you feeling a little happier? If you ask me that right now, there's no way I can say yes. It would make me sound like a degenerate. Lily hooked his stomach with her toes. Tell me the truth. She was dying of embarrassment. If this sacrifice couldn't cheer him up, it would be truly disheartening. Lucas grinned. All right, I admit it. I'm a degenerate. This is awesome. He felt a bit pathetic, getting so worked up just from touching her legs. But he was willing to wait until she was completely comfortable before taking the next step, which, in his mind, also made him incredibly noble. Just then, the door swung open. Do you still want those barbecue wings? We're out of. Emily's words trailed off as she forgot what she was going to say. For years, she had tried to avoid walking in on Lucas doing whatever it is boys do alone in their rooms. She never expected to walk in on this. Her first thought was, can kinks be hereditary? Lily instinctively tried to pull her legs back, but Lucas held them firmly in place. He reacted instantly, his voice calm. She sprained her ankle. I'm just massaging it. As he spoke, he actually started kneading her ankle. On the surface, he was the picture of composure, but inside he was screaming. Getting caught napping together was one thing, but getting caught playing with her leg, massaging Lily's ankle, by his own mother? Mom, do you have built-in radar or something? I'll have him go buy some icy hot and a bandage, Emily said, slowly closing the door. She took a deep breath, only to see Emma walking over. What are you doing here? Emma asked. I'm looking for my sis. I have a question about this, she said, holding up an English textbook. They're busy, Emily said, turning toward the kitchen. If I want grandchildren, I can't yell. I can't yell. Robert, look at the degenerate son you raised, Emma. When Lucas finally came to his senses, Lily had burrowed under the covers, her face peeking out, a mixture of shame and anger in her eyes. Why didn't you lock the door? I'll lock it next time, Lucas said, scratching his head. The dork had bewitched him. and he'd completely forgotten. Suddenly, the ostrich under the covers launched herself at him, pinning him down and biting him hard on the shoulder. You still want there to be a next time? A little while later, after Lucas had hidden the bite mark on his shoulder and Lily had covered the hickeys on her collarbone and inner thigh, they emerged from the room as if nothing had happened. Lily followed behind him, head down, her cheeks bright red. Lucas Prevention Protocol, Rule Number 1. Do not wear overly convenient clothing, like a slip dress. Emily's cooking was delicious. To treat Lily, she had made 4 dishes, a soup, and even bought a roasted chicken. Lucas was too embarrassed to speak, so he just shoveled food into his mouth like Emma, quickly finishing his bowl of rice. I'll get it, he said, starting to stand up. But Lily was faster, rising to take his bowl to the kitchen. Is that a red spot on my sis's collarbone? Is she allergic to something? Emma, ever observant, asked, watching Lily's retreating back. Emily swallowed a mouthful of food and said gravely, Your brother was probably just a bit too forceful with his massage. Emma looked utterly confused. What kind of massage was that? Lucas wanted to die. He was about to offer a rebuttal when he saw Emily glare at him, and the words died in his throat. He felt his mom was being a little indecisive. One minute, she was eager for grandchildren. The next, she was worried he'd take advantage of Lily's obedience. He felt wronged. He hadn't done anything. Just some kissing, some hiking, and now a little leg playing. Perfectly normal. He wasn't like those perverts out there. He had morals. This was his mom projecting her own worries onto him. Pure slander. How could she hope for grandchildren with such a wishy-washy attitude? After lunch, Lucas and Emma sat in the living room, battling it out in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, while Lily sat beside Lucas, watching him play. The game was a perfect mix of competitive and casual fun. Even button mashing was entertaining, making it a great party game. Even Robert would play a few rounds with Emma sometimes. I'm lagging, Emma yelled after her character was launched off-screen. That excuse is so old, Lucas said with contempt. I'm serious, it was lagging. That round doesn't count. I'm switching characters. Why don't you try telling your SAT proctor you were lagging? See if they let you retake it. As they traded insults, Lily watched the dazzling chaos on the screen, her mouth slightly agape. She didn't recognize any of the characters, but it seemed like Lucas would unleash a flurry of flashy moves and send Emma's character flying. Her boyfriend was amazing. Seeing Lily's engrossed expression, Lucas couldn't help but smile, his ego thoroughly satisfied. Normally, he'd let Emma win a few rounds to keep her spirits up, but with his girlfriend watching, all bets were off. Sorry, sis, but love comes first. Want to play a few rounds? Emma's terrible, Lucas said, waggling his controller. Lily slowly shook her head. This kind of game was a bit too complex for her. She preferred to watch, which also gave her the chance to sneak glances at Lucas's focus profile. If she dares to win against you, I'll destroy her, Lucas added. Just then, Emily poked her head out of the kitchen, where she was washing dishes. Lily, come give me a hand. I'll go, Lucas said, standing up. What are you going to do? Make a bigger mess? I asked Lily. Lily, accustomed to chores and naturally obedient, didn't hesitate. She got up and headed to the kitchen. Lucas found it strange. His mom usually doted on Lily and would never let her do chores. But since Emma was clamoring for a rematch, he had no choice but to sit back down and continue schooling her. He just asked Lily about it later. She'd tell him anything he asked. When Lily entered the kitchen, Emily was already at the sink. Lily went to the other faucet and started helping without being asked. She had a feeling Emily wanted to talk to her about something, but she was too shy to ask. She stole a quick glance at Emily before focusing intently on her task. The kitchen was quiet for a moment, save for the rush of water as Emily turned the faucet up. Emily glanced at Lily. The girl was working efficiently, a strand of hair having escaped from behind her ear, which she didn't bother to fix as she diligently washed the dishes. She was so well-behaved it was heartbreaking. And that was the problem. If Lily were a more typical girl, Emily wouldn't be so worried. It wasn't that she didn't trust her son, but Lucas was at that age, and Lily was just so compliant. Given her family background, who knew what kind of education she'd received on certain topics? No matter how much Lucas denied it, Emily had seen the hickey on Lily's collarbone as clear as day. If he was bold enough to do that under her roof, she couldn't imagine what went on at the apartment. If something happened, Lucas would graduate and move on, but the poor girl was still in school. It would be fine if they got married as soon as they were of age, but that time hadn't come yet. Getting her pregnant before marriage would feel like taking advantage of her lack of family support, and that wasn't right. It was so stressful. Being a mom was hard. One moment you're hoping for grandchildren, the next you're terrified your son will announce his girlfriend is pregnant. Emily's emotions were a tangled mess. With a sigh, she decided that after talking to Lucas, she needed to talk to Lily too, but she didn't know how to begin. Lily immediately turned to her, her watery eyes blinking with an expression of pure innocence. Emily's heart melted. Who wouldn't love a daughter-in-law like this? Lily, be honest with me, Emily said gently, trying to keep her tone as soft as possible. Has Lucas done anything bad to you? She suspected her previous inquiries about him bullying her had been too vague for Lily to understand. Lily froze for a second before nodding shyly. She'd already been caught. There was no point in denying it. Really? Emily felt her blood pressure spike. How could you, Lucas? To such an obedient girl? Thinking about what had just happened, Lily's cheeks flushed a deep crimson, and her eyes grew misty with embarrassment. She wanted to jump into a river. It wasn't his fault, the girl explained, her head bowed like a child who had misbehaved, her voice barely a whisper. I just wanted to make him happy. Even knowing she was covering for him, she couldn't bear the thought of Lucas getting in trouble. That, of course, only made Emily's misunderstanding worse. It seemed her warning had come too late. They had already done everything. And from the sounds of it, Lucas had manipulated the poor girl by pretending to be in a bad mood. Lucas, you're practically a criminal. Honey, don't you worry, Emily said, quickly rinsing her hands and cupping the girl's face. I will make sure Lucas takes responsibility. If he dares not to marry you, I will personally break his legs. Lily blinked. So, the old saying about a man having to marry a woman if he touched her feet was true. Aaron hadn't been lying. My heart isn't what it used to be, Emily continued. So please, before you and Lucas get married, don't go having any babies. We won't, Lily replied immediately, though she found the request odd. Neither of them realized they were on completely different wavelengths, each talking about their own concerns. A short while later, Emily came out of the kitchen. Lucas, lounging on the couch, called out lazily, Mom, I want some watermelon. Emily looked at her grinning son, at a loss for words. Finally, she couldn't restrain herself and gave him a swift kick. Just wait until your father gets back from his business trip. Then we'll deal with you. Lucas stared at her, completely bewildered, forgetting to even cry out in pain. A few seconds later, it hit him. What did you hit me for? You know what you did. Do you want me to say it in front of Emma and embarrass you? Lucas scratched his nose and fell silent. He definitely didn't want his little sister knowing he had a thing for legs. And feet. No, not feet. Seeing Lucas tacitly admit his guilt, Emily's heart skipped a beat. This one's a lost cause. Time to focus on the next generation. Lily had to go to her part-time job in the afternoon, and Lucas had to head back to the studio, so he offered to drive her. She even went back to the apartment to change into a more conventional outfit. The afternoon sky was overcast and gloomy. A cool wind whipped through the streets, rattling the trees and sending a chill through the air. It felt like it was about to rain. When they arrived, Lily got out of the car, but didn't leave right away. She walked around to the driver's side and said softly, I'm heading to work now. Lucas nodded with a smirk, meeting her gaze with a bold and righteous air. Work hard. I'm counting on you to support me. The corners of the girl's eyes crinkled. Her silky hair danced in the wind as she chuckled. Okay. The sight made Lucas regret not bringing his DSLR camera. She was about to turn away when she realized he was still holding her wrist, just smiling at her. Lily's mind worked quickly. Seeing no one was watching, she leaned in and gave him a quick peck on the forehead. Okay, I'm going to work now, she repeated, confident that she had fulfilled her duty. That's more like it, Lucas grunted, then suddenly remembered her trip to the kitchen. By the way, what did my mom talk to you about? Under his curious gaze, Lily glanced at the time, realizing she was about to be late. She quickly summarized the key points and said slowly, Your mom said we can't have kids before we get married. Lucas. After dropping Lily off, Lucas headed straight back to the studio. Even though he hadn't mentioned anything about overtime pay, a surprising number of people were still at their desks. Leo Jenkins was, of course, one of them. Lucas thought the guy had a screw loose just like Jason. They were both all about chasing the dream. Lucas placed a few umbrellas he'd bought by the door and walked curiously over to Leo's desk. He found him testing code while squeezing a small yellow rubber duck in his hand. Is this a programmer thing? Lucas asked, amused. He'd heard that many programmers talk through their logic with an inanimate object, as if explaining it out loud helped them catch bugs. I used to use my wife's anime figure, Leo explained. But the other said I was being a creep, so I switched. By switching, you basically confirmed you're a creep, Lucas said, a master of this particular brand of logic. If it were me, I'd have just said it's a tool for debugging. It was the same logic he used to shamelessly trick Lily. Leo turned and looked at him seriously. I can't talk about my wife like that. How could he call his beloved anime wife a tool? Lucas's eyebrow twitched. You nerd or something else? Lucas, this stuff is seriously hard. I think I'm losing my hair, a guy with a buzz cut sitting next to Leo complained, his face planted on the desk. There's always a way. We just have to push through, Leo said with his trademark optimism. He then excitedly pointed a finger at a 2D model on his monitor. Look at this. The result of an all-nighter. I'm maxed out at stats. Lucas couldn't be bothered to mock his cringy theatrics. He just snorted. That's right. You all keep working hard, and one day I'll be driving a sports car and living in a mansion. The programming team chuckled at their banter before returning to their work. The office was full of young people, so the atmosphere was rarely somber. A little while later, seeing Lucas standing behind him with his hands on the back of his chair, lost in thought, Leo offered some advice. Relax, man. Don't stress over problems you can't solve right now. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Lucas shook his head. No, I was just thinking. Why did my mom suddenly bring up kids? All he'd done was get caught touching Lily's leg. His mom hadn't said a word then, but after talking to Lily, she'd kicked him. The more he thought about it, the less sense it made. Where'd he gone wrong? Leo was speechless for a moment, then figured Lucas's state of mind wasn't so bad after all. I wish Jason had your attitude. He's been so down lately. It's not that I have a good attitude. I'm just not as ambitious, Lucas said, glancing at Jason's empty chair with a sigh. The more you want, the more you have to sacrifice. You either control your desires or you accept the anxiety and hardship that come with them. That had always been his philosophy. Being stuck in the middle was the surest way to end up with nothing. Titan Gaming has a mobile studio that's made a side-scrolling fighting game before. They acquired them a couple of years ago, Leo said, pulling up a comparison report between the two games for Lucas to see. If we can really get their technical support, the new game's development won't be so stuck. Lucas nodded. Then we'd go from losing a lot of money to making a little. Leo smiled. I'd call that a huge win. It was less about profit and more about whether the company could successfully pivot. Right. The rest is up to me, Lucas said, walking toward his office. He opened the calendar on his computer and started calculating. Lily's birthday was October 8th, less than a week away. Perfectly inconvenient timing, he muttered. If it were a couple of days earlier, he could celebrate with her and then go. A couple of days later, and he could go on the trip and be back in time. But of course, it was right in the middle. This was her first birthday since they'd met. He really didn't want to miss it. Lucas, Aaron Thompson said, gently pushing the door open. Lucas, who had been contemplating the meaning of life, looked up at her. This doesn't feel like good news. Her usual entrance was more like a CIA raid, just like Emma's. The fact that she was knocking politely was a bad sign. My parents said they want to come see the office. Her voice trailed off, completely lacking in confidence. Lucas was taken aback, an eyebrow shooting up. For the time Aaron's parents had checked up on her while Lily was in the hospital, he'd guessed she was doted on. Now, not only had she suddenly stopped asking for an allowance, but she was also sending a few $100s home every month. Her parents must be feeling a complicated mix of pride and suspicion. And since Aaron wasn't going home for the long weekend, it was natural they'd want to visit. Still, showing up at her job was a bit much. She's lucky I'm her friend, and I'm easygoing, Lucas thought. Any other boss would have told her to get lost. Erin herself looked mortified. She scratched her cheek with her index finger and bit her lip. I can just tell them not to come. The company was already going through a tough time. The last thing they needed was her parents causing a fuss. She knew if she were in Lucas's shoes, she'd be annoyed. Let them come, Lucas said, showing no sign of annoyance. In fact, he smiled. Want me to book them a hotel and roll out the red carpet? Help you show off a little? The company boss personally welcoming them. People would think Aaron was some kind of big shot. It would probably blow her parents' minds. Oh, right. I should bring Lily along, just in case they get the wrong idea. No, that's okay, Aaron said, waving her hands frantically, surprised he was serious. Just let them look around for 10 minutes. I'll get them out of here as soon as they're done. It's fine. Lucas turned his attention back to his computer screen, his mind returning to what really mattered. He'd been so busy, he hadn't even thought about what to get Lily for her birthday. Aaron backed out of the office, closing the door softly behind her. She sniffled, feeling surprisingly touched. She just had a huge fight with her parents about this. They'd given her an ultimatum. Either let them see for themselves that everything was okay, or quit. She'd only agreed under duress and had dreaded asking Lucas, fully expecting to get chewed out. But he hadn't been mad at all. He seemed to understand everyone. She let out a relieved smile. Maybe it was because of his personality that she felt 100% confident in trusting Lily to him. To think she had once warned Lily to be careful of him. How unnecessary. Lily deserved him, and he deserved her. Aaron's parents were efficient. The next day, they were on a flight to Seattle. That morning, Lily didn't have to work, so she was in Lucas's office, reading a book. Ever since he'd become too busy to join her at the library, this had become her study spot. "Weren't there 2 chairs in your office?" she asked curiously. When she'd arrived today, she'd found nowhere to sit. Lucas looked around, feigning confusion. "That's weird. Where did the other chair go?" As he spoke, he pulled her tighter into his lap, burying his face in the crook of her neck. Lily pouted, too tired to condemn his shamelessness. "If you had just asked me to sit on your lap, I would have." Was it really necessary to move the chair? This creep was so used to tricking her, he'd forgotten to even ask before pulling his stunts. She might be a little slow, but she wasn't dumb enough to fall into the same trap over and over. "I only fall for it because I like you. Otherwise, I'd never let you get away with it. I'm smarter than you now. I see right through you." Oomph. Feeling her internal monologue lacked conviction, she mentally himphed again. Lucas just smirked. "As long as you're still this silly, I have nothing to worry about." "Have you met Aaron's parents?" he asked softly. "No," Lily said, fiddling with the hand he had wrapped around her waist. "This is your office. Behave yourself." He pretended not to hear. "Doesn't that make it more exciting?" Lily immediately stood up and moved to the side, preparing to headbutt him. "Aaron's parents are here," Leo said, poking his head in. He then slowly closed the door. "Damn, this company is great in every way except for the constant PDA. My teeth are going to rot from all the sweetness." Lucas, who had been about to beg for mercy, was saved by the bell. He was genuinely scared. Getting headbutted by this dork was like getting hit by a bull. But teasing her was just too addictive. Even knowing the pain, he couldn't help himself. He was in a perpetual state of "I'm sorry, I'll do it again." He cleared his throat and held out his right hand to Lily. "Come on. As the boss's girlfriend, you have to greet the guests too." Lily wanted to hide in a corner. She turned her face away and muttered, I'm so nervous." "Nervous about what?" "You survived meeting my parents. This is nothing. Come on." As they stepped out of the office, they saw a middle-aged couple. The man was quietly and seriously surveying the studio, while the woman, a kind smile on her face, was handing out snacks. Her hair was tied in a ponytail, and she spoke with a warm, friendly tone. "These are a specialty from our hometown. Please try some. Don't be shy. We can't possibly take all this back with us." Lucas grinned, mentally debating whether he should stock up on snacks and drinks for the office like other companies did. His employees were truly shameless. The moment they heard there was free food, they all swarmed over. Anyone would think he was running a labor camp. He stood with his right hand in his pocket, Lily clinging to his arm, half hidden behind him. Her social anxiety was on full display. It seemed she was only truly outgoing when she was with him. Lucas glanced at the girl beside him and snorted internally, brave behind closed doors. 1 minute she's head-butting him or making his heart race, and the next she's playing the ostrich. In the grand scheme of things, at least he hadn't lost to a frog. "Are you trying to bury your head in the sand, ostrich?" he whispered, leaning close. He could understand her nervousness. She was feeling what most kids feel the first time they meet a friend's parents. She just hadn't had many friends, so she was experiencing it for the first time now. Lily stared at him blankly, her eyes blinking. "I'm not burying my head in the sand." Lucas suspected she was doing it on purpose, but he had no proof. Just then, the woman, Mrs. Thompson, walked over and offered them a bag. "Here, you two try some. Thank you so much for taking care of my Aaron." Lucas smiled and took the bag. Inside were a box of Fran's chocolates and a jar of gourmet Marionberry jam. "Very Seattle. You two should get back to work, Mrs. Thompson said apologetically. "I don't want to get you in trouble with your boss." As she spoke, several people who had been munching away looked up in unison, their eyes wide with a pure, unadulterated cluelessness. "Our boss is right there," Aaron said, pointing a finger at Lucas while pressing her other hand to her forehead. She wanted the ground to swallow her whole. How was she ever going to show her face here again? Mrs. Thompson turned, surprised. The young man she was pointing at was happily munching on a chocolate, while a stunningly beautiful girl beside him occasionally wiped the corner of his mouth with a napkin. The display of affection was so tender it left her momentarily stunned. It was only then that she noticed the girl hiding behind Lucas. A wave of panic washed over Mrs. Thompson. She was interrupting their work right in front of their boss. She hurried over to Lucas, flustered, to properly introduce herself. Mr. Thompson followed, offering Lucas a cigarette. Lucas never smoked, but he accepted it with a polite thank you. "Sorry to have troubled you," the man said earnestly. "Not all. I should be the one apologizing," Lucas replied. "I would have picked you up from the airport, but I couldn't get a hold of Aaron." "That's just like her, Mr. Thompson said, visibly relaxing. Lucas's demeanor had already given him a good impression. "You've accomplished so much at such a young age, Mr. Carter." As a purchasing manager, he'd met his fair share of company presidents, but never one this young. Please don't call me that. Your daughter just calls me by my name. Lucas is fine. Haha, all right. Mrs. Thompson, unable to join the conversation, turned her attention to Lily. After a moment, something clicked. You must be Lily, right? She asked. I've heard Aaron talk so much about you. Startled, Lily peeked out from behind Lucas. Annie, how did you know? Confirming that this was her daughter's best friend, Mrs. Thompson's demeanor softened. She leaned in and teased. Well, you're the prettiest one here, so of course I recognized you right away. She noticed Lily was tightly gripping the hem of Lucas's t-shirt and thought Aaron wasn't lying. Her best friend was the boss's girlfriend. With her daughter's personality, she was probably running wild in the office. She thought Aaron was exaggerating, but it was all true. Her worry had shifted from her daughter being taken advantage of to her daughter becoming an unstoppable terror. Aaron's mother knew her daughter's personality all too well. You're even more beautiful than Aaron described, Mrs. Thompson said with a smile, pushing aside her complex thoughts. Thanks to Aaron, her impression of Lily was already excellent. Thank you, and even though Lucas had introduced himself as Aaron's friend, Mr. Thompson maintained a respectful and polite demeanor throughout their conversation. It was clear that nothing was more important to him than his daughter's happiness and success. He was completely wrapped around her finger. Dad, haven't you talked enough? They have work to do. Aaron finally interjected, stomping her foot in frustration. Mr. Thompson, having just learned about Aaron's responsibilities at the company, looked at his daughter with pride. My baby girl is so capable. Aaron glanced around, her face turning crimson. Today was a social nightmare. What's that supposed to mean? So in your eyes, I'm just some lazy girl who stays home watching anime and eats 3 bowls of rice per meal. What's wrong with that? Your mom and I can't afford to support you. We were just worried you'd have a hard time out here on your own. Mr. Thompson wasn't the least bit offended by his daughter's tone. He reached out and stroked her hair gently. You were so sick as a child. The fact that you grew up so strong is the greatest gift you could have ever given us. I don't want to ask anything more of you. All I want is for you to be happy and healthy every day. The sharp, capable man's voice trembled with emotion by the end. The words caught in Aaron's throat, and she couldn't say a thing. Lucas was taken aback. His assessment of Aaron's father had been right. He couldn't imagine doting on a future daughter of his own any more than this. No, wait, he'd probably spoil her even more. His thoughts inevitably drifted to the girl beside him, a daughter with this dork. Their eyes met at that exact moment. What is it? Lily whispered. Nothing. Lucas, caught off guard, quickly looked away. He thought he saw a hint of redness in her eyes, but didn't dare look again. Silly dork, why were you looking at me? It was no wonder they had raised a daughter with social anxiety. In a matter of moments, the couple managed to turn the slightly tense atmosphere into a lively one. Everyone after work, dinner's on me. Mr. Thompson announced, then turned to Lucas. Mr. Carter, Lucas, you have to do this old man the honor. Of course, Lucas said, instinctively reaching for Lily's hand, only to find empty air. He turned his head. The girl who had been hiding behind him was gone. Huh, where did my giant girlfriend go? While everyone was caught up in the commotion, Lily slipped away into Lucas's office, closing the door as quietly as she could. She didn't want to disturb the cheerful atmosphere. She sank into a chair, a wave of melancholy washing over her as she let out a long sigh. After a moment of silence, she took out her phone and opened a photo she rarely looked at but knew by heart. It was a picture of a picture, old and faded. At the center was a handsome man in his early 30s, his skin tanned from the sun. He held a young Lily in one arm. The backdrop was one of those cheap plastic sheets from small-town photo studio, printed with a creek and a wooden bridge. This man was her father. In the photo, he was looking down at her, a look of pure adoration on his face, full of hope for the future. His clothes were worn, but he looked like a man who could conquer anything. Lily bit her trembling lip, fighting back the tears that threatened to fall. I have to be strong, she told herself. Crime will only be a burden to Lucas. But soon, the man's face in the photo began to blur, just as it had in her memory, obscured by a fog she could never see through. They had been poor back then. This was the only photo of her father, aside from his ID picture. Silence. She took out her phone and opened a photo she rarely looked at but knew by heart. It was a picture of a picture, old and faded. At the center was a handsome man in his early 30s, his skin tanned from the sun. He held a young Lily in one arm. The backdrop was one of those cheap plastic sheets from a small-town photo studio, printed with a creek and a wooden bridge. This man was her father. In the photo, he was looking down at her, a look of pure adoration on his face, full of hope for the future. His clothes were worn, but he looked like a man who could conquer anything. Lily bit her trembling lip, fighting back the tears that threatened to fall. I have to be strong, she told herself. Crime will only be a burden to Lucas. But soon, the man's face in the photo began to blur, just as it had in her memory, obscured by a fog she could never see through. They had been poor back then. This was the only photo of her father, aside from his ID picture. She, on the other hand, had quite a few photos from her childhood. Her dad had always been willing to spend money on her. Her head sank, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. The office wasn't soundproof, and the sounds of laughter from outside washed over her, completely drowning out her quiet weeping. As Aaron's friend, she was genuinely happy for her. She was just a little envious. Dad, I can't remember anything, Lily whispered, her voice choked with tears. It's been so long. I'm starting to forget everything about you. All I remember is that you were good to me, but I miss you so much. Just then, there were 2 soft knocks on the door. She frantically wiped her tears and turned her face away. Silly dork, Lucas said, waiting a full 10 seconds before entering. He closed the door gently behind him, and the noise from outside instantly muffled, as if they had suddenly been submerged in water. Realizing it was him, she turned back, her head still bowed low, like a child caught skipping class. Lucas froze for a moment. Then, without a word, he knelt in front of her and began to gently wipe away her tears with a tissue, just as he had promised he would that day in front of them all. I am okay now, Lily said, gripping the hand he held against her cheek, savoring its comforting touch. She forced a smile. You should go back out there. They'll be looking for you. She knew Lucas was the life of the party. No one would notice her absence, but as would be immediately felt. If you say that again, I'm going to have my way with you, he threatened softly. He stood up and pulled her into a hug. Nothing else matters as much as you. Lily didn't say anything more. She just rested her forehead against his chest and let the tears fall, some landing silently on the polished floor, others tracing a path down her nose. The drops splattered, then pooled together. The thought that she had just mopped this very floor this morning only made her want to cry more. After a long silence, Lucas spoke. You still have me. Yes, I still have you. Lily felt a profound sense of gratitude. And you have more than just me. My parents and Emma adore you, he said, kissing her tear-streaked cheek. It tasted salty. Sophia sees you as the most important person in the world, and Aaron loves you to death. You have so many people around you who would do anything to take care of you. And most importantly, I will always be by your side. He was nervous, his words fumbling and clumsy in a way they rarely were. Maybe you just miss your dad, but I want you to know that I will do everything I can to make you just as happy. Happier than anyone. I can't change the past, but I can be a part of your future. He scratched his head, feeling more awkward than he had since he'd met her. To his surprise, Lily let out a small laugh, which almost turned into a snort. She quickly covered her mouth. What are you laughing at? He asked. I've never seen you so nervous when you talk. It's kind of dorky, she said, dabbing her nose with a tissue. She looked up at him, her eyes red and swollen. Her boyfriend could give a speech in front of hundreds without batting an eye, but comforting her made him a nervous wreck. You're not allowed to call me dorky, he said with a stern face. His reaction startled her. Why not? She asked timidly. He poked her forehead. If someone who couldn't solve 1 + 1 called you bad at math, you'd be annoyed too. Lily pouted. His comment had somehow chased away her tears. I'm not dorky. After a moment, she held out her phone. This is a picture of my dad, she said softly. It was the first time Lucas had seen a photo of his future father-in-law. He had the charm of an 80s rock star. Lily had definitely inherited her warm, friendly smile from him. Try as she might, Lily couldn't recall much more. She sighed. She wished she could turn back time, to tell her father not to skip breakfast to save money, not to live on stale bread and water. But she couldn't. All she could do was cherish what she had now. Realizing this, Lily gently squeezed Lucas's fingers. Do you want to have kids one day? She asked quietly. That's a trick question, Lucas said, his brow furrowing. He suspected that if he said yes, he'd immediately be branded a pervert. The interpretation of having kids, whether it meant the process or the result, was entirely up to this dork. No, it's not, Lily mumbled, thinking he'd seen right through her. He leaned in with a mischievous grin. So, you're saying you'll have kids with me one day? To his surprise, she didn't blush or call him a creep. Instead, she looked at him with unwavering determination. I will, if you promise to always eat properly, she said, her gaze locked on his. Is this for real? Just as Lucas's mouth was about to get ahead of his brain again, there were two loud knocks on the door. Lily, are you in there? It was Erin, her voice filled with concern. See, I'm not the only one who worries about you, Lucas said with a soft laugh. But if you really don't want to go today, that's fine. I'll make up an excuse. We can show Erin's parents around Seattle tomorrow and have dinner then. No one will be upset. He wasn't just being polite. He'd already come up with a solution. Lily wiped her eyes again, checked her reflection in her phone screen to see if they were too swollen, and stood up. Let's go together, she said softly. Change your mind. She nodded firmly. I promised you I'd always hold my head high. As she said it, she realized Lucas had completely misinterpreted her words. His gaze was fixed on a very specific, very inappropriate place, a lecherous glint in his eyes. Lily's cheeks instantly turned as red as her eyes. Don't look there, she hissed, mortified. The next day, Seattle was still an oven. The sun wasn't particularly bright, but stepping outside felt like walking into a sauna. And then, at night, it would get chilly. It was ridiculous. Lucas was sprawled on the couch, legs crossed, the picture of leisure. Lily, on the other hand, couldn't sit still. With nothing else to do, she was at the desk drawing on her tablet. Her left hand rested on the keyboard. Her right held the stylus, which hovered over the tablet. Every so often, she tapped the undo key with a crisp click. She looked like a real pro. The living room was quiet, save for the occasional shout of a child playing outside. But while Lily's silence was one of focused creation, Lucas's was one of mischievous plotting. He was not okay. Lately, this dork had been making his heart race with alarming frequency. And aside from moments of physical intimacy, he felt like he was losing his edge. To put it bluntly, she was running circles around him. This was not right. While he, the master of the long game, still held the upper hand, he needed to be on his guard. Lucas, the lazy couch potato, rolled over. He reached for the bowl of grapes, only to find it empty. They were cotton candy grapes from the market downstairs, delicious but almost too sweet. His brain and his mouth wanted more, but his legs had other ideas. They were not leaving the couch. He felt himself getting lazier by the day, practically being turned into a useless lump by Lily. He was pretty sure that if he asked her to wash and bring him more, she would. Guided by the principle of empirical evidence, he decided to test his hypothesis. He looked over at Lily, who was engrossed in her drawing. Lily, he said softly, the grapes are all gone. She seemed to be concentrating hard, but after a moment's pause, she nodded. I'll go wash some for you. And feed them to me? I'm so tired, he pressed on, shameless. She looked up at him. Can I just finish this part? It won't take long. The innocence in her eyes made him feel a little guilty. He slumped back onto the couch like a deflated balloon. This is the last time, he chanted internally. The very last time. Today. A few minutes later, Lily brought over a bowl of freshly washed grapes. Lucas looked away, scratching his cheek. He had almost forgotten he wanted them. When you go through security at the airport, he said suddenly, does the metal detector ever go off? Lily popped a peeled grape into his mouth and tilted her head. No, I don't think so. You sure? His question made her second-guess herself. She couldn't figure out why he was asking. No matter how certain she was about something, the question, are you sure, always planted a seed of doubt. I'm sure, she said quietly after a few seconds. She was a model citizen. She'd never brought any contraband on a plane. Lucas sat up and leaned in, studying her with mock seriousness, which made her inexplicably nervous. His brow furrowed. It should go off. Why? Huh, because you steal hearts. That's a felony. The terrible joke cracked him up, leaving Lily frozen in place. She pouted at him and decided to confiscate the grape she was holding. But after a moment's thought, she dutifully held it to his lips. The instant he opened his mouth, she popped it into her own. Lucas was left with a mouthful of air. He stared at her, his eyes cold. The girl opened her mouth to show off her prize, then gave him a sweet, triumphant smile. So satisfying. I'll peel another one for you, she said, not even bothering to chew. The last thing she wanted was for him to be upset. But as she reached for another grape, he grabbed her hand. The next second, his lips were on hers. It wasn't a deep kiss. He simply stole the grape from her mouth, then pulled back and opened his own mouth to show her his plunder. Imported grapes, he thought. Delicious. Lily's mouth was slightly agape. She was stunned. When reality finally set in, her triumphant expression vanished, replaced by a look of utter betrayal. She lowered her head and mumbled, Isn't that gross? What's gross about it? I taste your saliva all the time when we kiss. You make kissing sound so disgusting, she said, exasperated. When you like someone, you even like their saliva, he said with a straight face. So, when you call me a leg man, that was pure slander. I don't have a leg fetish, or a foot fetish, or a hand fetish. I just have a you fetish. Lily, the XE has stopped working. She pressed her lips together, abandoning any attempt at a rebuttal. It was pointless to call her boyfriend a pervert anymore. Lucas, equally done with calling himself a pervert, peeled a grape and popped it into his mouth. He then pointed his lips. Now I'm going to see if you like me. Lily hesitated, but after a long moment, she mustered her courage and leaned in. The instant their lips touched, Lucas swallowed the grape. To add insult to injury, he stole a kiss. Why you just love bullying me? She whined, retreating to her desk like a wounded animal. She was done playing with this meanie. Feeling completely recharged, Lucas put his laptop on his lap and prepared to work. He shrugged. You're the one who said you liked it when I bullied you. Frustrated and helpless, Lily opened her drawing program and sketched a pig head with Lucas written on its forehead. Still not satisfied, she drew a little anthropomorphic bunny beating the pig to a pulp. The pig, bruised and teary-eyed, pleaded, Please, Miss Lily, spare me. I'll never bully you again. The bunny, arms crossed, looked down imperiously. I'll let you off this time. There, that's better. Lily smiled, happy again, and took a screenshot of her 4-panel masterpiece. Seeing her silly grin, Lucas felt a wave of complicated emotions. What do you do when your girlfriend is this much of a dork? Wow, someone followed me. Lily suddenly exclaimed while Lucas was deep in his work. Nice, he said with a smile, not thinking much of it. It was just 1 or 2 followers. He had over 100 on his own profile, and he'd never even posted anything. But this was progress for his dork, and that made him happier than any accomplishment of his own. How many followers? He asked curiously. 110, 100, over 1,000. Lily clearly couldn't believe it either. She had counted them one by one. Lucas nearly choked on his own spit. He coughed violently. How many? Did you accidentally upload a picture of yourself? He couldn't think of any other reason she would gain over 1,000 followers overnight. I think someone with a lot of followers shared my post, she explained. She had clicked on the person's profile. 82 million followers. The number was staggering. By the time she finished speaking, Lucas was leaning over her shoulder, scrolling through her ArtStation profile with her mouse. The first thing he noticed was her username. World's smartest lily pad. Lucas grinned. Interesting username. He walked back to the couch and chuckled. That's great news. You got a huge head start. Some big shot with a good heart gave you a chance, and you were talented enough to seize it. See? Opportunity favors the prepared. Can I make money now? Lily asked, her eyes shining. No, you're still a long way from being able to monetize your fan base. Her excitement dimmed slightly, but she was still happy. With a small smile, she bravely opened the comments section under one of her drawings. It was a female character from his company's game, Tower of Slaughter. She wore a bone mask, her long white hair cascading down her back, one hand reaching in her green cloak, about to pull out 2 throwing knives. White hair, red eyes, a cool, confident smirk, total fan bait. Fortunately, the art community was mostly positive, and the comments were full of praise. Wow, are you a fan of Tower of Slaughter too? Lily saw the comment and carefully typed a reply. I'm Lucas's girlfriend. She had never played the game. She just liked the character because Lucas had made it. After a moment's thought, she changed the period to an exclamation point to sound more cheerful. A few moments later, a flurry of replies appeared beneath her comment. Can confirm I was there. I'm Lucas's phone. I'm Lucas's wife. Wait, the Lucas you're talking about is my classmate. LOL. Lily stared at the messages, bewildered. She added another comment. But I really am Lucas's girlfriend. I'm really Lucas's phone. I'm really Lucas's wife. The person above me is so gross. You're a dude. Knowing she was no match for them in a war of words, Lily gave up, closed her laptop, and stretched. I'm going to bed. Are you coming? You say that like you want me to sleep with you. Lucas scoffed. We are sleeping together. In the same bed? No way. With that, she went in her room, then poked her head out. You should get to sleep soon. Okay, Lucas said dismissively. A few minutes later. All right, air conditioner unit 1 check complete. Non-functional. Next, Lucas moved to the living room. Air conditioner unit 2 check complete. Non-functional. Lucas recited the lines in his head and turned his gaze back to Lily's room. He had been preparing for this grand mission for a very, very long time. Victory was at hand. Lily had just drifted off to sleep when a knock on her door woke her. She opened it to find Lucas standing there, a helpless look on his face. What's wrong? She asked immediately. He scratched his cheek. My AC is broken again. Lily was instantly suspicious. Did you break it on purpose so you could sleep with me? Lucas's defense was seamless. Am I crazy? Who would be bored enough to intentionally break their own air conditioner? And when I offered to sleep on the couch so you could have my room, you said no. She mumbled, just as she was about to ask, so what exactly do you want? Lucas pointed to the living room. I was going to sleep on the couch. I wasn't going to bother you. But the living room AC is broken too. Lily, she didn't even bother putting on her slippers. Her bare feet padded quickly across the cool tile floor to the standing AC unit in the living room. She pressed the power button a few times. Nothing. The screen indicated it was set to cool, but no air was coming out. She checked the plug. It was firmly in the socket. It really was broken. How could that be a coincidence? She said, looking at him with disbelief. She had a strong feeling he was up to no good. Even if this was an old building with old appliances, the fact that his AC had broken twice and now the living room one had failed at the same time, no one would believe that. Lucas wrapped his arms around her from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. Some things are just that coincidental, he whispered, his voice like a devil's murmur in her ear. Us meeting again was the most magical coincidence of all, wasn't it? He was just waiting for this door to open Pandora's box. I guess so. Lily thought about it and felt a little thrill of happiness. Suddenly, 2 broken air conditioners didn't seem so unbelievable. Coincidences happen. Seeing the blissful look on her face, Lucas had to suppress a laugh. She was already convincing herself. He pressed on. It's already October. We'll only be using the AC for a few more days anyway. If I wanted to trick you, I would have done it a long time ago, not now. We could draw a line down the middle of the bed. I promise I won't cross it. Remember when you said you were scared? I didn't kiss you for a long time after that, did I? He was at the finish line. He had to say all the right things. Right now, he would have admitted he was dumber than her if it helped his case. I swear, if I'm lying, may I be struck by lightning. He was cut off as she pressed her index finger to his lips. Don't say things like that, she said gently, whether you're lying or not. His guilt intensified, but he had come too far to turn back. He pushed his conscience aside and looked at her with pleading eyes. You have to trust your boyfriend's character. What bad intentions could I possibly have? Lily saw the dark circles under his eyes and the sheen of sweat on his forehead, and her heart ached. All her suspicions melted away. She sighed. Fine, but you can't get too close to me. Deal. Clutching his comforter and pillow, Lucas triumphantly entered her room. It felt novel and exciting. Other than the night, she'd had a fever. He'd never been in here before. She usually locked her door when she slept, and although she left him a key when she was out, he'd never snuck in. A real man didn't sneak. He used clever schemes to get what he wanted. What kind of lowlife would sneak into a girl's room when she wasn't there? Pathetic. The first thing he saw were several bras hanging on a drying rack. The style and patterns were perfectly suited to her age. Girly and alluring. Before he could get a good look, Lily lunged forward, gathering them all in her arms and turning her back to him. Her hands had moved in a blur. She then crab-walked over to her closet and stuffed them inside. What are you doing? Lucas asked, bewildered. I'm afraid you'll open it and peek while I'm asleep. He scoffed. That little trick won't work on me. When I was a kid, my mom used way more sophisticated methods to keep me from playing computer games all night. Back then, getting to the computer was like defusing a bomb. He'd had to meticulously photograph the scene before touching anything, just so he could put it all back exactly as it was. Lucas decided to stop teasing her. He made his bed on the floor, then lay down without a hint of shame. Lily, feeling awkward under his gaze, tidied her hair and got in her own bed. She immediately pulled the legs of her pajama pants down, trying to cover as much of her thighs as possible. No closer, she warned, drawing an imaginary line down the middle of the bed with her finger. Or I'll go home. You can hug me when we're standing, but not in bed. I'm afraid you won't be able to control yourself. Not even if we're just sleeping? You said everything of yours was mine, he argued, ever the opportunist. It was a good thing she'd stopped him from finishing his oath earlier. Lightning would be striking him right now. Lily bit her lip and scooted closer to the edge of the bed. I meant after we're married. Then marry me now. We're not old enough. A smile played on Lucas's lips, his eyes shining. So you're saying you'll marry me? I didn't say that. She rolled over, turning her back to him. Playing hard to get us out of style, he said, poking the back of her neck. I suggest you tell me the truth. Do you want to marry me or not? Lily rolled back over and gave him a soft kiss. Ask me again later, she whispered. This man was incorrigible. He hadn't even told her he loved her, and he was already trying to trick her into being his wife. She had standards. She wasn't that easy to fool. You can at least tell me you love me. Then I might consider it. Lucas, for once, couldn't read her mind. Why? It's a secret. She had learned to be mysterious. He was going crazy. He squeezed her shoulder. Tell me why. If you don't, I won't be able to sleep. She turned to him again, her eyes full of affection, shimmering like a galaxy of stars that held him captive. Under his intense gaze, she spoke softly, a little shyly. Because I want to hear you ask me again in the future. Then I'll ask you in the future. The day you're old enough, I'll ask you every single day. He was grinning like an idiot, silent but overjoyed. Sticking to his long game strategy, Lucas was on his best behavior, and Lily soon fell asleep. He lay with his eyes closed for a few minutes, then slowly opened them. He looked at the girl beside him, a strange, wonderful feeling washing over him. It was a little strange, he had to admit. He'd slept alone his whole life. Now, with a girl beside him, the bed felt like it had been divided in half, and his heart along with it. This dork was sleeping in his bed, and in his heart. He reached out and gently stroked her long hair, following it all the way to the ends. Napping with her in the middle of the day was different from sleeping at night in the dark. Being able to see everything so clearly was far more thrilling. Even though her back was to him, her long, silky hair, her soft, pale arms, and the gentle rise and fall of her body as she breathed were a beautiful sight. Lucas looked out the window at the blue sky and scattered clouds, another smile spreading across his face. He didn't know why he was smiling, but he couldn't stop. He wished this peaceful, perfect moment could last forever. Just then his phone vibrated. Leo Jenkins. Lucas, the mole went to a company that's developing a direct competitor to our stall project. We need to get to San Jose. Now.